welcome back to the Six Invitational 2024 here on the B stream. We are getting into the tail end of things now, Tim. It's not quite an elimination time, but it's starting to get to that point where teams are going to have to start thinking about that potential next step. It is NIP coming up against Virtus.pro.
We start answering questions,
We do.
That is the bit that I really love, because the winners will, of course, go through to the main stage.
Will indeed, and just in case you're tuning in, here's what the bracket currently looks like. Now, in case you're thinking, okay, when do those teams start getting eliminated? That is tomorrow. That's when those games all kick off. But for now, we are still in that bracket, second from the left on the top in the nice light area. The winner of this game goes through to having that semi-final stage, which means they get through, I believe, to the live arena later this week.
It'd be the live arena, yeah. I'm pretty sure I'm right in saying this. That game isn't played in the live arena, but
yes,
even if they lose, they drop to a lower bracket game, which is played in the live arena. So, yes, they will make it there one way or another. So, this is the schedule that we've had so far today. I tell you, there's been some absolute bangers today, Des. We saw Ancaster Dark Zero 2-0 run over of Team Liquid, but those first two Wolves, W7M FaZe and Lost, they were very close affairs. And obviously, G2 FaZe is still ongoing at the minute and has been an absolute cracker.
It's really proved to be a close fixture there. I mean, to be fair, you're looking at current world champions versus a team that has finished top 4 at basically every event over the last 2 or 3 years. Colour me completely shocked. But obviously we're focused on the game that's taking place here. NIP coming up against Virtus.pro, and we'll start digging into those rosters for you in just a second. Now, for Virtus.pro, obviously haven't had to play it today. Have found themselves sitting pretty, coming top of their group. NIP, of course, saw them play it earlier on, and it wasn't quite the straightforward run through that game they'd expect. We'll talk more about that in a minute. But now, Virtus.pro, as said, Tim, haven't yet played today, but have had a strong tournament so far.
No, absolutely. It's going to be an interesting one to see at the end of the day. You know, what's the win rate for those teams that have had not the day off, but have been able to sit and watch the games and are just playing once today versus the teams who have to play twice. Obviously, the Sonics have already taken a win just before we've come on the air here. The other game is ongoing at the minute, so we can't answer that one. But so far, the winner has been the sort of top-seeded team that's only had to play the one game. We'll see whether it is the same outcome for Virtus.pro, of course. They've impressed quietly so far, have Virtus.pro. They've come about, they've, very professionally gone about their business, and, they know what they want to do, and they go and do it.
On the other side of the equation, though, is NIP, as mentioned. Now, it's been a weird tournament for this roster so far, and today really hasn't been any exception. They played against Fury, they won 2-1, but did drop the first map of Chalet to Fury, which surprised many, and I had a good chat about the guys that were casting it. Of course, we got to watch some of that game as well, and the general thinking was NIP started slow, they warmed into the series, but we've got to see them being willing to get more active in a game, and I think against a team like Virtus.pro that no doubt we'll talk about more, that is going to be so critical, because if you give Virtus.pro space, they will punish you so hard as a team.
Yeah, exactly that. And, NIP, we've been saying it for the last 3 years, they struggle for time sometimes, particularly on the attack, and a team like VP are just perfectly poised to frustrate them out of the game like that. So that's something NIP need to be aware of. But on the positive side for NIP, I'll say the same as, again, I've said and seen and experienced a number of times over the years, and that's NIP quite often come in and have slow starts. There is always a point in a tournament where NIP will activate. The question is, do they make it far enough to activate or not? Or do they, do the slow performances cost them before they get there? But there always seems to come a point where they just switch on, lock in, and it's like all of a sudden you kind of like, whoa, where did NIP come from? And it's sort of wondering whether, are they getting to that point now?
And that's what I'm worried about. Against Fury, it looks a little bit shaky, but now you're up against one of the top dogs in Virtus.pro. Here's where we're going to, though. We're going to start things off on Cafe. That was picked out by the side of NIP. Interestingly, Virtus.pro opted to start an attack. In fact, across pretty much all of these, it's opted to pick and start an attack the whole way through, I've been told, Tim. Now, that's interesting because at this stage in the tournament, many of you think will be defaulting straight towards defense, but no. Attack all the way through.
Yeah, so Cafe Bank Chalet will be our 3.
Interesting. That first one I look at straight away, and I always fear teams attacking on that map. As long as the defensive team avoids Bar Cocktail. Resident hater of Bar Cocktail is in the room with us. And so I think really if we do see a good defensive game coming out of the pickers of the map, we do see them come out on top, that'll get this series really going for them. But again, I can't really ignore that VP have just been that team. They look a little bit transformed with Pasha alongside old Team Empire. And although maybe they haven't come out and lit up the stars the way that everyone hoped they would, let's not forget they tied for first place with W7M, only winning by round difference and getting this auto buy here. They're another team that I think that when they really get rolling at LAN are so hard to stop.
I'd agree. And I think Virtus.pro are a team that have just quietly gone about their business. They've just gone in, done what they needed to do, and off they go. And I think, again, they're one of those teams that could really grow into the tournament. You look at the trajectory they've got, they're on the up. You know, and that's what you want, really. You just want this slow burn throughout the tournament until your very best performances come at the end. And I feel like, you know, that could be a road that Virtus.pro are walking at the minute.
See if it steps into that, of course, as well. And again, coming back to the conversation from earlier that I had with Emmy about what they observed during that game, the problem was that we often found for NIP was on their defensive side. They kind of sat back and really let Fury do what they wanted to do on the attack. They could put Ossa shields where they choose. They could get themselves set up for a multi-point execute without ever really being challenged. It was kind of the frustration that we had the other day. Well, me and Lynx had that, actually thinking about it. In M80 versus Bleed, was Bleed really sat back and let M80 do whatever they pleased. And hopefully we see a little bit of a turn in fortune this game that NIP have learned from the 3 maps they played earlier today, and they come out a little more aggressive and willing to get in Virtus.pro's face. Otherwise, VP could get off to a good start on the attacking side, take this map, and then run away with Bank as well, making it a 2-0. Of course, we're hoping not, but time will tell. Now, Tim, we spoke a lot about the bans earlier for DZ's game and said how they're always banning away DKB and Azami. Virtus.pro have banned away very consistently Ying every single game, and truthfully I forget exactly which defender it was, but there is also a defender they ban away every single game.
Well, Grim will be the first choice for NIP. Ying will follow, as suggested, and then we'll see if this jogs your memory, Des, whether the defender seems or sounds the same. I think it's going to be one of the 4 that we would expect.
Azami.
Azami, yes. There you go. And then that will likely be followed up, potentially by a Valkyrie here on Cafe. A lot of use for Valk does come in, but we've also, of course, got Solis, very useful underneath. Lots of vertical destruction that can be used. So the final one will be the Valkyrie, as suggested. It's almost as if I've watched this before.
Almost as if we've seen quite a few games of Cafe so far this competition, Tim. We have actually seen quite a lot of Cafe across the tournament, which somewhat surprises me, but all maps, I think, getting pretty good playtime and good spread. It's not like there's one map that's kind of been left out in the cold. We are seeing a good balance across the board, to be fair. As mentioned, starting on the defensive side is NIP, and we're going to kick things off, Tim. You'll be delighted to know, not in Bar Cocktail, but it's going to be in Fireplace and Mining, but that still means you are very likely to see some defensive setup on this top floor to try and burn through time of Virtus.pro. Something that historically they haven't been the best at making use of. They have been criticised for being quite a slow team, as have NIP. So I think a lot of this will really come down to the attacking side of things and how these two teams approach the game.
Yeah, that's it. If one of them can particularly come online on the attack and just work with a little bit more pace, a little bit more speed, we've seen over the last week that in this current meta, it's been quite easy to frustrate teams out of those attacks, to really slow them down. And some of the attacks that have actually been most successful have been the ones with teams just rushing into sight and saying, you know what, we're not going to play into your games around the map. We saw it earlier in the Dark Zero game. They took a couple of opportunities to just get themselves in there. I'm thinking the kitchen attack on that Aben Labs particularly, one that Bolo broke down for us in his post-game interview. And so that has been a success sometimes. Again, Cafe doesn't really lend itself to that too much. Mining, I guess it does have the external window, but you really do need that top floor clearance before you can just be diving into sight.
What it will actually give to VP, although they're not one of the top 3 teams, we were talking a lot about Sonic, G2, DZ being the only 3 teams at 50% or higher attacking win rate. VP are no slouch. They're actually in 4th place at 48%. So one of our stronger attacking teams, and our 3rd, I believe, to G2 and DZ when it comes to the percentage of rounds that they attack, where they actually get the diffuser down. So very objective focused, very, very good on the attack. Again, that could be the difference maker, but it's all going to come down to how disruptive NIP feel coming into this game.
Yeah, I mean, these players on various rosters across the years have always been well known for going in with a plan and being able to make it happen, you know, one way or another. They are a team of players who will sort of wear you down. Players like Joystick, Shepherd, you know, if they see those opportunities in that bit of space, they will take it, and it's very much, this is our plan. We don't really care whether you know what the plan is or not, because we're going to do it, and we're just going to do it better than you can defend against it. So NIP are going to have to hold on. On the flip side, one thing I would say for NIP on the defensive side side is they're actually very good at controlling rounds. So you'll often see them, Muzi, Pino potentially coming in, picking up those entries, and then they'll just frustrate a team for a minute and a half, not really engage, just step back, burn time, and then hit them hard in the final 30 seconds. And NIP are very good at forcing teams to sort of play to their tune.
I mean, right now they're doing just that on the side of NIP. The Goya canister burning out, bearing in mind we're a minute and 45 to the round, and VP haven't even got through Cigar yet. A reminder, we are defending on the downstairs. We are inside of mining. We're not on the top floor. Yet until now, VP have burnt 2 minutes trying to get control of this top floor. Not working the way they want, but now what you are seeing is pretty much the entirety of NIP drop down, flooding back in towards site there because they feel they've wasted more than enough time.
And that's what I was talking about. NIP controlling the game and the clock there and saying, you know what, we're not actually going to take those engagements. We're happy with what we've burnt. We're going to keep ourselves alive on site. And you've now got even more work. You've got a new puzzle to try and solve. Psycho has got the Nitro in hand underneath. Cons actually opens things up with the kill onto Dan. The Nitro's close, but just not quite there. And 4 versus 4 as Joystick gets online, picks up Cons for the late trade, but Psycho is there directly for the trade. 4 versus 3, 20 seconds, Des.
They've got to get moving pretty quick here. It's been played very well by NIP so far, but ultimately it comes down to the gunfights as they try and work their way forwards. Pretty much every drone was dead with 60 seconds left on the clock as well. Shepard going in blind here, round in the corner. Can't quite win out his own gunfight. Always gets one more, but there's 5 seconds on the clock, and with all these players to find, it's simply not going to happen. Virtus.pro just a little bit too slow in round 1, and NIP just stab at them from the shadows and take a very comfortable round 1.
Yeah, always in control, always in the driver's seat there. NIP did a fantastic job, really. And to be honest with you, it's a little bit of a problem potentially for Virtus.pro here. NIP didn't really need to do very much on the top floor to burn that 2 minutes. They'd set themselves up well. You know, they'd caused little questions, little problems for Virtus.pro to solve. But Virtus.pro, like you say, just very cautious. And I think it was something we heard from Joystick in an interview 18 months, 2 years ago now, where he said, you know, yeah, we've been in a situation whereby we're just not acting on the information. Like, we're getting the information and then we're just not sort of doing anything with it. We're not aggressing. And that very much looked like that to me. It's like you're on the roof, you've got the drones, maybe a bit of over-droning, rather than going in and trying to do something about it. So we'll see whether Virtus.pro can get moving. NIP may have given them the perfect site to do it on. We're going up to the top floor. It's going to be cocktail and bar.
Interesting that they've tried twice now to make Shepard work on the Kali as well. There's a point once walls have been opened up, for example, through storage or through towards bar, where actually there are a lot of very good long angles across this map where you can make great use of the Kali. But honestly, I think the main use case for it is less so the actual rifle and much more down to the gadget. Of course, there's like a sort of AoE once you've deployed it where it can destroy gadgets. You're looking at things like Pyjamas, or when you've got 4 charges, it's quite useful to get rid of the Wamai magnets. Things like that. Goes through castle barricades, destroys gadgets in an area. It's still quite powerful just as a raw gadget by itself without the need of being able to remove electrification. And that's why I think they're trying to make it stick, just running around instead with the secondary and saying, you know what, this is actually good enough for us. We don't need anything else on this Kali. It just does what we need.
Always is on the piano rappel, which we quite often see the Zofia playing on, just in that position to try and clear out these castle barricades, which is exactly what we're seeing at the minute, just sending in those gadgets to make sure that they don't get caught out by the Wamai magnets, and then the explosives follow to clear out those castle barricades and just allow a little bit of pressure to come onto Cigar Shop so that the player in behind it was Cons in this case, has to move away because they can't stay there safely.
Cons has really blocked himself in. I thought for a second he was pretty much guaranteed to be dead to right. So by the looks of it, Virtus.pro realised the FNAT mines hanging around top red would have really made that drop a bit deadly for them. And so opted not to. But again, Tim, we're coming to the minute 15 mark. We're not even inside Cigar yet. We're not actually inside Piano. As I say that, someone actually repels in. So we do now have control of it. But it's still good, slow work, I guess. If this was a different site and it wasn't top floor, at this point I'd start to feel concerned for VP.
Dan just looking to create a little bit of an angle there, but doesn't find anybody. Instead takes the Slightly more dangerous. Peek straight through. What a nitro from Wizard. Sends it up to the top 4 and slams always on the stage. 1 minute 15 left to go. There was an answer in kind. Pino taken down. 4 versus 4 now. Joystick just finding the advantage for Virtus.pro.
Could have been so much more dangerous that, but this is the problem. We almost saw it last time when Joystick came marching down red. It only takes a few gunfights to get one. It doesn't matter about anything else. And Wizard has found one, found a second. Was finding himself caught out here on the walk through because of the hack of the Brava onto the FNAT. He's turning it against him. He's got to try and win these gunfights. Manages to sprint his way across, but can't see the man. The FNAT working against him there, and real smart use actually of the Brava from Dan to hack that out and guarantee that trying to push up top red, it ain't the play, Chief.
Well, it's a great example, isn't it, of the clutch drone and its effectiveness because, you know, in that case, you don't have a gridlock, don't have a nomad, so, right, we'll just use the FNAT against you. And like you say, it completely cuts off the flank. They know if anybody's coming through, it puts them at a major disadvantage. Wizard had a great round, to be fair to him. He got a brilliant nitro to kick things off onto Always on stage, got himself another couple of kills on that potential flank, brought it back to 1v2, but it just wasn't enough because Virtus.pro had the answers, and they get themselves the first attack on the board. That's going to see them moving down to attack onto Kitchen this time.
Interesting how we got Cons going across the Clash here. Now, a few teams have employed Clash as the tournament has worn on, and I actually think it's a really smart answer to the attacker, air quotes, rush method that we find ourselves sat in at the moment, where attackers realise if we play things slow, we are going to get penalised by Wardens, by Kai Electricals, along with Subaru. We're going to see Fenrir keeping us at bay, Azami, you know, you name it. So you have to go quite fast. And what do you do when you want to slow a team down? Well, Clash tends to be one of the go-tos. Sure, things like Mirror or Legion will work to make attackers second-guess things, but nothing works even more effective than a Clash as long as she's in a good position. Now, it might be that Cons just sits and plays on site here and really looks to protect any kind of execute through Freezer, but I just think it should be employed more by more teams as the tournament goes on.
That's really fascinating as well. What we saw there was Cons just hiding away, trying to stay off the drones so they didn't recognise there was a clash. And if you look on the side of VP, they now don't have any direct counters. But more interestingly, Shepard was originally on the Kappa Tower and has picked away from it and probably wouldn't have done had they known that there was a clash in play. So really smart tactic from NIP. But unfortunately for them, they're going to lose the opener. Psycho's going to get taken down and that leaves them without Wamai. But remember as well, those Wamai gadgets are available over time. So they've just lost a bunch of magnets as well and a bunch of defense against those throwables that might come in. We've got flashbangs on side. We've got smoke canisters on side. We've got frag grenades on side. And there's going to be a lot less protection as Joystick rips away Wizard's protection, takes him down with a headshot. That's going to be 5 versus 3.
It's already looking like a pretty good start for Virtus.pro in this round, and no matter what game plan NIP might have, Virtus.pro don't really seem to care. Just happy to chew through a couple of members in the early round and translate things forwards from there. Getting themselves set up here on this first floor. Reach onto the wall, opens up the floor on the other side as well, as you can so wonderfully see here. So not really purpose opening the wall, it's much more about the floor on the other side. Gives you a bigger area than just placing it direct on the floor itself and using it that way.
Here comes the clash. Let's see how much of an impact Cons can have with 1 minute 20 left on the board and a 2-man advantage. It shouldn't be too difficult for Virtus.pro to deal with this realistically. Another kill or two and Cons will be all alone. They just need to get that angle onto the backside, really. I think they're knowing that they need to, or at least feeling that they need to deal with VIP, but at the minute there's actually nobody in there. Muzi has pushed back to the bottom of Brown Stairs, so that is ground that Virtus.pro could take if they get aggressive enough onto it and recognise that there's nobody there. They will still need to win the gunfight with Muzi, but they at least know that they can drop into Freezer without too much of a problem.
Absolutely. More about the time, though, as I said, I'm just concerned that Cons still stands. I know it's a 5v3, but as you've also said, there's nothing direct to really counter him here. They've gone through all their utility. They've only got a couple of smokes on side. A drop of 2 comes in now, maybe going in towards a sink plant instead, or in fact trying to round behind. Pino doesn't have a clue what's going on. They've shut this down, no problem at all, and it's all on Muzi to turn everything on its head against 4 players coming in from Virtus.pro.
Yep, Muzi just trying to work his way through. He takes a little pre-fire onto the hatch. That
Too
leaves
easy.
them knowing exactly where he is. Dan cuts him down. I thought they may have a bit of an issue there. The air jab, which was, of course, the only real counter that they had potentially to use for the clash, was stuck on the floorboards. It didn't quite make it through. through. The shot was not clean, but it didn't matter. They got the job done anyway. Virtus.pro locking out their second attack onto Kitchen, and NIP just unable to really do anything to stop them in that round. It was good stuff from Virtus.pro. They got themselves a couple of kills. They got that mid-floor control. They used it. They created some verticals. They did everything that you'd really want an attacking team to do on Kitchen, and they got the rewards for it.
It's worth mentioning in case you are also following along with the other stream. If you are not and want to watch it back later, then shut your ears now. G2 have fallen to FaZe. Defending world champions down to the lower bracket. That's where it all started last year, though, Tim.
I'm sure that our Brazilian fans
are
will
delighted.
be happy to see that there is a Brazilian team confirmed for main stage.
I'm delighted to admit it means that we're not going to have an empty arena. You're going to have some Brazilian teams in the Brazilian home region.
I've got a
stinker.
feeling that FaZe are not going to be the only ones that will be making it there.
No.
I think that there will be another couple of Brazilian names. Whether NIP will be one of them or not, we will see as this one continues. A reminder of the stakes of this game. Nobody goes home on the result of it, but somebody will go through to the main stage. It continues them in the upper bracket into a match that isn't on the main stage, but whether win or lose, you will still go through to a match that is. So, NIP, I'm sure, will be fighting hard, but right now, they just don't have the answers to Virtus.pro here on Cafe, and let's remember, this is NIP's
Beautiful
map pick as well.
Nice electrification beneath, however, it will be negated by the faction that's been brought in this round. Same story as before, burning their way in through the cigar setup here as well. Castle barricades down onto the double door, enough just to kind of chew through some of that utility in Virtus.pro's back pocket. In fact, I think Always has gone through pretty much all of his at this point. The one thing I am quietly keeping an eye on in this round, Tim, is that triple stack of Capcan traps that we saw go down inside of Storage Freezer. The chance of an attacker kind of just standing there is a little bit unlikely, but the chance that they could tuck away, get on drones for a few seconds, that is more likely. And so VP have got to be so careful when they gain control of this top floor that they don't just find themselves dying to the most randomly placed triple Capcan stack you've ever seen.
Dan gets himself to the top of red, is going to suffer the effects of the FNAT 9 up there, but it doesn't really matter too much, except it does tell Wizard somebody's playing there, but Dan, with a beautiful little quick peek across, rips Wizard down and gives Virtus.pro another entry kill. That is now 3 in a row for them, and it's not looking good.
One thing I will give VP is they've really shown that a slower playstyle in this kind of crazy defender-favoured meta right now is not a bad thing at all. Fenrir arguably is the most impressive thing in terms of this defender lineup as it stands. Not going to see too much use of things like vertical nades even on this particular setup, I imagine, given the site is down on that second floor. But Dan's found himself a second. They're just slowly marching their way forwards. They're picking up kills. NIP have got no one around to really trade or play off each other. And so for Virtus.pro, as long as they can keep on winning their ones, of which Dan is doing in absolute style this game, 9-1, tells you what you really need to know.
Just going to see the Nitro come in, but the damage is realistically done as we find ourselves now with Psycho in a 1 versus 3. He's got a double. It's going to mean an ace if he was to close this one out. Shepard inside a side, able to get this diffuser down. Very little that Psycho can do about it. The vertical's not opened up, and before that can be confirmed, Dan finds himself the 4th. And that is a huge round in what is becoming a very big game for Dan here. Really starting to run away with things for Virtus.pro.
It only takes one player to be hitting their shots on the day and everything can just fall by your side. I mean, I think at this point he's got more kills than all the other players in the game combined. He's sat on, what, 11? I want to say the rest of his team have got like 3 and NIP about 8, maybe 8 or 9.
We know that he's that player. You know, sometimes
he's that guy.
He just is. You know, sometimes he will have those games where he comes out and is just unstoppable. There's just nothing you can really do to get in his way. And it's unfortunate for NIP that that's what he's showing us so far today. 11-1. Absolutely flying.
Same kill total as the rest of all of NIP, which really kind of tells you why we're currently sat at a 3-1 scoreline. A reminder again, this is on the attacking side of Cafe. Yeah, Virtus.pro, it wasn't
on the map that NIP chose.
Yeah, I was going to say, it wasn't their map pick coming into this, but they are absolutely running away with it. A couple more rounds to go before we see that side switch, but this could be real bumpy for NIP, and I'm somewhat surprised that we haven't seen attack timeout coming yet.
I think one of the big problems that NIP are facing right now is that Cafe is very similar in a lot of its defenses and attacks, whichever side you want to look on. It's very, very similar. Attackers want to get on the top floor, they want to work their way down, they want to clear the defenders as far as they need to, whether that be, you know, all the way down if they're in kitchen, or whether that just be clear the top floor because they're in reading or mining. You know, they want to get into that top floor, get map control, and then work down onto the site from there. The problem that you've got with a team like Virtus.pro, they are very good at rinsing and repeating. They are very good at bringing the same plan and just executing it very, very well every single time. And so the fact that it's now worked 3 times in a row for them makes me think that Virtus.pro have got everything they need to close out a 5-1 half here, just because they're going to keep just doing the same thing effectively. And NIP are just not finding how to deal with it.
I just keep looking at it and thinking, when Dan's on an 11-1 on the day, it doesn't matter what setups you bring forth, what operators you choose, they're just getting rolled over. I mean, even looking at this round here, right? Kaid in the 2-brow, it's the classic combo we've seen throughout most of the tournament. Bandit sometimes being swapped in as well, but Kaid, much safer, able to cover the larger area as well with only using 1 gadget, for example. Just seems to bring a little bit more than the Bandit, and so it's been quite the draw of bans throughout this competition, especially on maps like Clubhouse. But when a team has got Legion, when they've got the 2-brow and the Kaid as a common, they've got Fenrir on side, that's a lot of really oppressive defensive operators that most teams would struggle to deal with. Great alley-oop there to catch Joystick and get the down. Not dead, though. Pino's going to find Dan. You have killed the final raid boss, and surely this is a round that NIP can now put on the board. Yeah,
that's effectively 5 versus 3, and I think it was just that little bit of distraction from the Nitro as well that allowed Pino to make that challenge. Dan's attention just being diverted elsewhere. But no, Shepard, he goes in on a hero mission here and manages to pick his man up, and that is going to be Joystick back on his feet. 5 versus 4 then, and Virtus.pro might just have a chance in here, but always the problem for Virtus.pro will likely be that clock. We are down to the final minute, and it's looking more like round 1 where they don't have that top floor control, and they're nowhere near pushing onto site.
Their vibe very largely becomes, we control what we need and nothing more, and I feel that's what they're trying to do here, is get just enough that they could plant, for example, just through Fireplace. They'll push down red if it comes down to a numbers advantage. However, at this point, in a 2 versus 4, it feels like a bit of a foregone conclusion. They should be able to get this one closed out, make it 1 left standing, always with no HP to his name. You can blow on him and he'll basically just fall over. 2 HP there, 1 more shot coming on through, not quite collecting him yet. But Psycho gets it at range, and NIP will take their 2nd round of the map. Good for them to get a 2nd round at least, Tim. I think they'll still be a little bit nervous here that they've dropped 3 defensive rounds so far.
Yeah, so it's not ideal.
Cons is guzzling that water. Ain't he? That's speed drinking.
Yeah, definitely throwing that down. Whether there's, you know, whether there's a bit of a dry mouth going on there, the nerves kicking in, we don't know. But, like you said, good 2nd defensive round for NIP to pick up there. I desperately just want a 3-3 half. I want a 3-3 half all the way to over. I just want absolutely everything out of this one because I feel like it could become one of those really big matchups. Now then, NIP are going to take us for their final defense back to mining. We've seen them cover it twice. It's win 1, lose 1. So we'll see if they can improve on their round 4 attempt, which saw Virtus.pro win it last time. It started with that absolute beauty of a headshot from Dan down onto Wizard through the floor. Nice vertical angle that he picked up into trade. So NIP need to be making sure they're not losing that opening kill. When they get the entry, they do so much better in the round.
They seem quite happy to keep on bringing the castle as well and slowing things down around Piano. Probably aware that they've wasted so much of Virtus.pro's time on this top floor. Like, every round they've tried to work their way through. They're taking a good minute and a half to even get themselves inside Piano, let alone start looking at the sites itself. Similar sort of story here. Got themselves reinforcements going up, castle barricades down white, the cigar double door. Yeah, you name it. Once again, trying to turn this top floor into a fortress.
Ash is going to get himself up onto the half roof, bakery rooftop, sending the drones and continue the support work that he's been doing so far, droning for the others. Want to get Dan and Joystick in really on the entry and start taking some of these fights up on the top floor. Only 30 seconds in yet, so plenty of time for Virtus.pro, not running short just yet. So Joystick just opening up the angle in the hatch there onto red stairs, allows him to watch for any movement around there until the hatch gets open, and we start to see that utility getting cleared out of Piano as well, but for the time being they've still got Wizard playing underneath there. He does, I think, have the bailiff in hand, so we'll be able to open up some verticals as well, so just something they need to be aware of if they're dropping into Piano.
Probably another thing to be aware of is that NIP have no Lamai in this round. They brought it in the vast majority of their rounds, which means things will connect when they get fired out. Always, for example, have the concussion come out first, realize, oh, nothing has caught this, and just very simply with one impact took out the castle barricade. From there, they can just keep on marching on forwards, not having to worry about going through utility very cautiously or leading flashes before committing key things, for example. And so Ash joystick can turn around and get things done. Already seen Always go ahead and do exactly the same. And probably most importantly, those EMPs are very, very safe to hold on to here as well, and start looking for these electrified walls if they want them open. Maverick, though, does at least shortchange that. Doesn't matter if it's electrified or not, if you've got an EMP or not, you can still burn your way through, as we're now seeing.
Yeah, and Virtus.pro are kind of happy to just leave the players over on the east side of the map here. They're not getting too involved with those gunfights over in Cocktail, because they don't really necessarily need to. We can see Wizard there choosing that bailiff I suggested he would be carrying. This time, instead of thinking upwards, he's thinking downwards, and he's giving himself a little escape route should he need it, opening up the hatch there. We're going to see the Boogie drone just going off and creating those verticals now. Joystick manages to pick up Pino, and Virtus.pro have got control over the top floor. Pons, interestingly, is just hiding away and reading at the minute. He's just, there you go, he's just tipped himself out of there so he can get an angle up underneath the new hatch, and I'm not sure Virtus.pro are aware of that. If they overextend, they could lose their lives.
Wizard I'm watching out for here as well, because there's 3 players all coming down red, so he's in a spot to be able to do a little bit of a backstab if they work this out well. Pasha, though, is on the hunt at the same time. Dan has found Psycho, so now all control is in their favour. EMPing out our manager for any C4s that could come through. Wizard's been dealt with. That was their only backstab attempt. And Muzi, now in a 1 versus 5. This is going to be a 4-2 half to VP.
Yeah, almost certainly. Shepard managing to get the diffuser down there, which has not been something that Virtus.pro have managed to do as consistently as they maybe have done previously. We said they've been very objective-focused, but they won't mind because they come away 4-2, picking up the last one with a flawless round, and it just sets them up for a big second half here. But we always have that question mark when the sides switch. Will Virtus.pro be able to carry that sort of momentum through onto the defensive side when they can't necessarily be as aggressive? Yes, they can take the fight to the attackers a little bit, but they're kind of waiting for that push from NIP. So I'm interested to see Virtus.pro whether they get themselves out into the map here. How many problems do they try to cause NIP on their attack? Or do they play a more turtle approach, which I think could be a little bit of a mistake on this one?
All right. Classic that already I'm seeing Shepard jump straight across to playing on the Echo. It's their go-to bread and butter, especially for this site in particular. No surprises at all that it'll be a big part of it. On the other side, NIP, you always have that question. Do you turn towards an IQ to help hunt it down? Or do you rely on the ability to make use of the DKB to get things done? The only concern with the Dokkaebi being if she dies, or for example, if you have to use those calls early on, you have very little to deal with them later. And they may be making a big gamble here by getting away from both of those operators and no clear, easy option to deal with Shepard. Of course, as long as he's protected, they'll be able to have an impact in the later parts of this round. But Tim, I expect once more we'll see a full map clear coming in. NIP starting at the top and working their way down.
Yeah, this is a real sort of barometer for me of NIP's speed on the attack. Is time going to be a factor for them? How quickly? I'd love to see that, you know, they've got players like Muzi, Pino. I'd love to see them get in and just really move. Get the drone just ahead of him. I always reference Shaiko clearing this map with BDS. You know, you'll have a drone 10 feet in front of him and 30 seconds in, top floor's cleared, he's onto the mid floor. I want to see that sort of confidence coming out of NIP. Just get into the map, get a drone ahead of somebody and get clearing it out. Get that ground so that you're not wasting too many seconds when it comes to later in the round.
Especially when we've seen, I mean, we can have the beauty of hindsights and outlines for hindsight of outlines and top down. We can see that every single player from Virtus.pro is on the ground floor. Now, as long as NIP figure that out pretty quickly, and I'm really curious to know what it is that Twitch is waiting out for here. Is it because they're not expecting to find a tweet? Oh! No! That is unbelievable patience being shown. And they pay the price for it. That is what happens, and why you have analysts on your team to sit and do counter-analysis and counter-prep to know the tendencies and habits of enemy teams. Really smart stuff.
Absolutely beautiful from Psycho there. Like you say, getting his just rewards after he's sat there waiting for almost half of the round. But will it be enough? We can see that Virtus.pro are in control of the mid-floor. They've got the dining hatch open, so that gives access into Freezer, and they can now go to work opening things up. Pino on the book, you can hear the skeleton key going off above them. So they are bang on time here. They've been opening this mid floor up from about 130, 140. So there is no excuses now for NIP in terms of time. They just need to open enough verticals to force everybody out of sight. They need to clear VIP, and then they can really start pushing forward. Dan is in a critical position right now.
That's a real stinger, because now you've lost the Echo as well. I mentioned them, wanted to keep him alive late. I think he died on Flower. And it's in a spot where you were waiting there, hiding away. That's the one. Waiting to make use of those yokais, and it's simply not going to be a thing. Now, with the Oster on side, you absolutely want to make a freezer drop work, but in a 3 versus 5, things start to look quite easy for the Brazilian side. It really will take a big mess up for this not to work in their favor. They've dodged the VIP player. They're inside of sight, and Cons, golden opportunity here to get this diffuser down. Doesn't even need to deploy a shield at this point, Tim.
Yeah, Dan's having to scurry back through the bar instead of the way he would have liked. But Pasha somehow is able to just walk through the middle of the site and put the diffuser down cold on the ground. What a play! He makes to take out Cons 3 versus 2. As somehow Virtus.pro have just completely swung this, and NIP are reduced theirs to nothing more than a hatch drop. What a play from Virtus.pro!
I'm baffled at how on earth Pasture has managed to get away with that. He was being threatened on the vertical angles, and whether he's caught someone on a reload or what, I'm not sure, but has managed to run underneath the vertical cover, get rid of Cons, who has zero protection from anyone. Like, we had the player who was outside Freezer, who had the cross angle. We had the Freezer hatch obviously open in a spot to be able to help things out too, but there's just not enough cover. And look, 2 players managed to make it. Honestly, baffling. And NIP will be kicking themselves because they were in such a man advantage situation. 5v3. They'd got rid of the yokais, and still Pasha sneaks it away right underneath their nose.
Realistically, in that situation, with the plant going down for Cons there, you need one of 2, if not both of these 2 things. You need somebody in Fireplace with a vertical opened up above him that can cover that double door that Pasha's just been able to run through for free. You need to be controlling that area so nobody can push the bomb chassis. The alternative to do that is potentially to have somebody in Freezer, either on the window or behind the bomb chassis, looking out in that direction. Basically, somehow you have to stop that cross. You cannot allow them past double door, and Virtus.pro have just shown exactly why. Pasha recognizing that there was no cover in place. He rolls the dice. He can't necessarily know that 100%, but he's got a good idea, and boy, does it pay off. What a round from Virtus.pro.
Even if he'd failed, there would be a second player coming in from double door as well, so there's 2 spots really where the verticals have failed NIP a little bit there, unfortunately. I'm sure they'll clean it up for next time we go back to that site, if we have to go back to that site, Tim, because it could be 2 rounds left, and I've already been there. Well, there's no real reason for Virtus.pro to return. They can't for at least the next couple. And so for now, we're trying to slow down NIP on different sites. This time around, it's going to be mining and fireplace. We've seen this already quite a lot back in the first half. You're going to see roaming up on that top floor, I imagine, coming out from Virtus.pro. But also, as you've seen, Pasha has been darting around that bottom floor a little bit on the Mozzie, just scurrying away into what I guess for now at least is the proverbial basement of this map, whilst we're up on the 2nd floor.
Bravo drone goes in. We've seen the effectiveness of that Bravo drone continued throughout the game. We had a great example of it earlier with the FNAT that had been captured, was turned over and used as a flank watch effectively. So more electronics will be captured and will turn themselves over to work for the attackers. Cons making good progress across that top floor, forces Dan to drop away. And again, this is good. It's confident movement from NIP. They've got themselves in the top floor. They've forced players away from Cocktail. They've got full control now. And that's within a minute and a half. That's good stuff from NIP.
I think VP just also showing the due respect there as well, not wanting to hang around too long and get yourself into a massive scrap over this top floor. When they've used enough utility, they've committed into KB calls, for example. They've chewed through half their drones. They've thrown flashes at you. It's a pretty good time to back away and instead start playing on the site. So a good successful roam, even though no kills have come their way. For NIP, it all comes down to how they execute in the final 60 seconds. So they've got the verticals they need. They know what's going on below. Still got some drones raining on through. got to try and find a way to deal with some of these Virtus.pro players. It's all good making the move, but those are still guns up that can give you a real headache, as Psycho almost just found out.
This is it. All the pressure that they've gained from the vertical hasn't really, given them anything else as of yet. There's no position for them to get in and put this diffuser down. Cons is waiting for the call to come, and that will likely be it as Psycho manages to find Shepard. Cons doubles down and picks up Dan. There's got to be a chance now to get that diffuser down. That's exactly what he's going for, but Pasha, he's trying to spoil the party, but this time NIP have the vertical. They close the man down, and the diffuser is planted. Joystick tries to work his way back up red, but Muzi says no, this one's flawless, and NIP keep themselves fighting and get back to 3-5.
Yeah, Pasha managed to almost play Rat Boy again, but this time gets picked up on the vertical. A couple of pixels in it, could have found that headshot all the way across into Cons if needs be, but the fact that it was a flawless round just really speaks to how this game's been playing out. I mean, NIP, sure, it's their first attacking round win, but I think just the angles they set up, they knew what the movements would be coming out of the players of Virtus.pro and made sure they had the right players in the right places at the right time to make this work. And it was one of the main concerns I had for NIP coming in on their defensive side, to be fair, was would they get up in the face of Virtus.pro enough? And now I'm asking the same question of VP, really. Like, sure, you're showing that respect, you're letting them move you around. When the heat gets a bit too hot, you get out the kitchen. But the problem is then you're giving everything to the attackers inside about 90 seconds to 120 seconds, still with a good amount of time to pull off and execute. And it's a little bit too easy right now for both attacking sides to get what they want out of these rounds. That needs to change if Virtus.pro are going to take this map away from NIP.
Round 9, it will be then 5-3, and we head to Reading this time around. So it's going to be much the same from NIP. They're going to be looking for that top floor control, looking for those verticals that did them so well last time around to maneuver those Virtus.pro defenders and allow them the lines that got them some of the kills at least. And it was just really well played from the Brazilian side. Starting to wake up on the attack a little bit, maybe. Like I said, time is usually the concern for NIP, but they haven't really shown me that so far. I've been happy with the pace they've been moving at. They've been getting in there and taking map control quickly. It's been more on the execute that they've struggled.
What I find really interesting too, this feels a lot like old school Cafe, the way it's being played out. Like, you could show me this and say, oh, this is a game from 2 years ago, and outside of course, the new operators that have come out in that time, I'd believe you. It feels like it's more about, top red control, be nice and slow, drawing everything out, get ready for an execute with the verticals. Whereas you look at some of the other games that we've seen earlier in the competition, especially in the group stage, it was jump out city, it was 3 players on each side repel, it was fast, it was aggressive, it was up in your face and just screaming at you. Whereas here, much slower and more composed siege compared to what maybe we would have seen 6 months, maybe even 12 months ago, for example. I think that really speaks to the two teams and how composed they like to play things. This round may be even slower, arguably the slowest of the bunch, given we've got that Monty on side from Psycho.
Going to see Dan detonating the Vulcan canister just to slow down Psycho in his push across. He does have Cons and Muzi in support as well, so top floor has now been taken over once again by NIP within 1:30. They need to be careful. Nitro still in hand. Dan, he will deploy you. I'm going to leave it there for the time being. He's just waiting for his opportunity, waiting for that sound call to come through, where he can, he'll be hoping to pick up somebody like Psycho on the Monty so they don't have to deal with it. But for the time being, NIP, they've got themselves control, need to get some verticals. They've got breaching charges in the hands of Cons that will be able to do that, as well as Pino with the skeleton key, and they're just clearing out that utility that's going to allow them access to the plant spot. But there's the Nitro. Dan was waiting, he knew what he wanted, and he got it.
Got away with exactly what they needed there, I agree. Getting the entry, I think, is a pretty big one. Admittedly, onto Cons, it's not to be too offensive, but you've not lost exactly the top fragger in this game so far. Tim has been the one carrying the diffuser for a lot of it, but I imagine here that responsibility may well turn to the Monty as this round wears on. In fact, exactly as I say it, it's given from Pino over to Psycho. And surely the goal is to get control of that reading door just outside of Snow and make things happen from there. Could there actually be a util drop coming on through here?
Psycho's actually going to drop in through util, as you say.
They have to know.
Start trying to move through. Muzi manages to pick up Dan. There's an opportunity to potentially put this down, but Shepard says no thank you. Goes in and gets an important kill. However, with joystick down, it's 3 versus 2 and 15 seconds. Pino's into the breach. He needs to go in and get that diffuser picked up, but no. Muzi and Wizard, they manage to find one apiece. Close out Pasha on the white stairs, and that's going to be another round for NIP. They are fighting back, and they have woken up here on Cafe.
again, it's turning more and more into this vertical gameplay as well. Like, I think that's been the real defining piece of this half, has been NIP's vertical control has been fantastic. Outside of that first round, where things obviously slipped and went the way of Virtus.pro, I just feel like every single round, Virtus.pro are either A, not aware of the vertical set up against them, or B, are aware of them, but are then forced to commit what we often call unforced errors. It's like they know it's not the optimal play, but they have no other choice. They can't just sit there and go, well, I can't go there because there's a vertical. You have to chance it like we saw back in that first round. But this could be a 5-4 scoreline to NIP right now, if not for that first round from Pasha's excellent hero play in the middle of it. So unsurprisingly, Virtus.pro said, right, 3 rounds now, we have been battered by these vertical angles. We've got to change something. What is it? I think it's really hard to call because NIP have got this very slow-moving front line. They get control of the ground they want. Virtus.pro are showing the respect when they need to and not getting themselves killed for seemingly no reason. And even with the C4 early in the round to try and help them out, it's still not going their way. It feels like NIP are on the road to a comeback.
Yeah, I think the problem for Virtus.pro at the minute, as I look at it, they're giving up the map control of the upper floors without taking anything for it. They're not taking time. They're not taking lives. As soon as they come under a bit of pressure, they're dropping away. They're using those hatchers. They're not taking the fights. And I feel like maybe it's time for Virtus.pro to say, you know what? We're going to have to stand up a little bit taller here, and we're going to have to take those gunfights. I get it. They don't want to lose manpower early in the round as the defenders. They don't want to throw lives away. But at the same time, NIP, as you've said, quite correctly, are having too much time to work above them to make their lives difficult. So for me, Virtus.pro, if you're going to lose 1 or 2 on the verticals anyway, you might as well lose 1 or 2 trying to stop NIP having access to them. And who knows, maybe you come out on top.
The thing is, I don't really think of Virtus.pro as a massive like roam-heavy team either. Like even in this round, as you see the top down here, again, every single player is on the ground floor. What does that mean? NIP get the verticals for free. Maybe you'll get C4'd by Pasha. Maybe you'll find yourself being hit by someone poking their nose up red stairs or something along those lines. But that's really all they've got. It's going to be a repeat of what we saw earlier on from NIP. And the thing is, Tim, you know full well they are not going to be making the same mistakes where they let 2 players get ahead of the vertical angles that are being held. They will punish Virtus.pro this time round.
No, absolutely not. You're quite correct. There's no way they're going to let Pasha walk through sight again if they get into a position to put that diffuser down. So for the time being, NIP are in a position now to get themselves inside of the map. I'm sure, given that they've already attacked this once, they're going to expect Virtus.pro to pretty much be lurking on that bottom floor around sight, just trying to hold it. Beautiful throw there of the track stinger from Wizard, just threading the needle down red stairs to prevent
that one's
that
been practiced a few times.
I would imagine so. I bet that one will be getting used in ranked a couple of times after people have seen that beautiful throw.
All right, here we go. This is the angle where the Goyo actually, I want to say it was always, but I'm not sure if it was a different player playing it in that round. Most likely not, where it always managed to work his way through red corridor and in through the double door to join Pasha in the assault on Cons, who was planting inside a bunker. So that's one angle taking control of. The rest, I imagine, will come around Freezer. You can see the same angle actually on the left-hand side of Fireplace here that has been opened up. That was the one where they managed to let Pasha slip through last time around. So as long as they're more cautious this time and more aware of what's going to be coming, I feel like NIP should again course correct and bring us to 5 and 5. That was the C4 coming out that missed.
It's certainly what they're going to be looking for. Not as much success with that vertical C4 this time. As you said, it did miss its mark. Shepard on the cams just trying to feed any information on a potential Freezer drop. It's not something they've taken yet. There is a presence this time inside VIP. Dan didn't really manage to make any difference from there last time. Uzi just held him off. He didn't take the gunfight and Dan had to move back through bar. So I'd like to see Dan maybe just have that bit more impact. But of course, Cons on the Orsa makes that very difficult for him.
This is a bit cheeky here because he's going to expect the drop to come through, but it's not the case. So while he's looking out for a potential drop coming in, instead they're going to walk straight at his face. Go for the legs if you must, but I'm much more concerned about the player coming in from restaurant window here that he might get shot by. And in fact, they get everything. NIP causing a distraction with the Orsa pushing up through white, and that opens up restaurant for them as well. Perfect distraction run, and now they've got control of everything. A 4 versus 2. And looking at the locations of the players on Virtus.pro, they're hard pressed to stop this.
It was a gamble, but it was a gamble that paid off. Dan being cleared out now gives them access into sight to be able to go and plant. Just dealing with those Maestro cams. Smart play from NIP as Cons goes in. Looks to plant on the reinforcement, but again, they've allowed Joystick to run through the middle of sight. Oh, Pino, just in the nick of time, is able to start putting it down. They take out the Maestro cams, and it's all up to Shepard on the Alder.
He's got it all to do, and the problem is, Tim, he's 1-6 so far in this game. Gunfights have not been his forte, and that shall continue. NIP bring us all square, and again, I'm starting to feel nervous of Virtus.pro here. Defensive side of Cafe, who?
I mean, there are mistakes there that Virtus.pro have sort of got the opportunity to exploit, but NIP just sort of managed to course correct each time. This was a real gamble, sending Cons in. He nearly lost his life a couple of times to those foot shots, but Joystick there, able to almost make the difference. But in the nick of time, Pino managed to grab a hold of that diffuser and start putting it down. There was 2 seconds left on the clock when he started activating that diffuser to extend that time for his team, and it was so close. But NIP, they get the job done, and I'm sure they're going to be very happy with this passage of play.
At the very least, Tim, are you happy that Virtus.pro haven't taken us to bar and cocktail?
Always happy with that.
Maybe they should try it. Maybe Virtus.pro the reverse team.
Maybe that's what they need.
Because I feel like a lot of the issue, again, is coming in when they give over vertical control to the side of NIP. They have punished them constantly the entire half by opening up whatever they need to get opened up, uncontested, by the way, and then just making sure players are paralyzed or pinned down, unable to push through them without losing their lives. And so I feel maybe actually a site where the vertical isn't really so much opened up vertical holes, but instead is a massive skylight might actually work in their favor. It would be classic Virtus.pro sort of stuff if it did, but I'm concerned that we're not going to see them get a single round from this point out.
Worth pointing out that we have seen Cocktail defended once at the beginning of the game, and it was lost. It was lost.
It is a 24% defender win rate at the moment. Coming into this game.
I've never felt so backed up by stats in my life.
You know what I love is the actual antithesis to that is right above it. It's been played 17 times, by the way. We've played 19 times above it is Mining and Dining with a 74% defensive win rate. Literally 3 times higher in terms of how often defenders get won. It's unbelievable.
Saying it for years, and here we are. So we will get right on into this. 50 seconds have gone inside of round 11. NIP have not got themselves inside of the map just yet. They're looking to soften up Piano. We've got Muzi on the rappel, and we've also got Pino out there as well on the book, just trying to hold down. Muzi managed to get himself inside, actually. This is where, honestly, I think Virtus.pro need to stand up and be countered here. They just need to take these fights. If you lose them, you lose them. Don't give up the ground. Don't give up the vertical. Try and get yourself a man advantage. Try and get yourself an entry.
Thing is, I don't think they'd be too bothered if NIP lose someone on the early round. Same for Virtus.pro. In fact, finally, I was going to say, the first time we've seen it, there's a jump out coming on through. Almost converts a second onto Psycho, it's worth noting, but it's 1 for 1. And really one of the only players getting kills on the team is now off the board in the form of Dan. 18-6 he currently stands, and sure, may have got themselves a second as well, but NIP still have the 3 versus 4.
Dan's got the entry in the last 3 rounds, and Virtus.pro just haven't been able to convert. Joystick able to use those warden glasses to just wipe away the flash effects and allow him to continue in that position behind the shield, and NIP don't really have an answer to this right now. He's going to have to drop away. The pressure was mounted, and there's the kill as Pino picks him up, and again, NIP just so great at problem solving and just that communication. Joystick's dropped, so they know where he's going to be, and they're ready for the challenge on the vertical. 3 versus 3 as there's 45 seconds left on the clock, and here comes that push from NIP to now get themselves inside of sight and have an opportunity to put that diffuser down. Again, something that they've done consistently well so far on the attack.
Shepard getting threatened from the verticals here. Might be dead to rights. They know that he's stuck in that back corner. Psycho's hanging on the door as well. Just about gets out. About 25 HP. Similar story for Always. Literally down to 3 or 4 here. And Pino's in. I wish we had the stat on how many kills have come from verticals this game, because it is absolutely ludicrous, Tim.
Cons goes to take the drop, but that's the diffuser. Pasha has managed to flank up Brown Stairs, and that's a big error from NIP. They're going to have to play for kills, and boy, do Virtus.pro know it. They are just running for their lives. Always takes one down inside a sight, and what a round for Pasha to grab for Virtus.pro.
Just not tracked on the downstairs as well. They thought they had all the info they needed. Pasha at the bottom of Brown, just not known about, pops up at the perfect time. A second later, Cons is probably past him, and that diffuser's going down, and they've got all the cover they need. By hook or by crook, Virtus.pro are now at map point. If they nick this one, Tim, it's going to feel so hard done by on the side of NIP. But really, it did come off the back of this start. It's worth noting. Like, I will give it to them. It's the first time we've seen a jump out or any kind of real aggressive play come out of Virtus.pro. And yes, you've lost Dan early. Not the end of the world to lose the Aruni because you've already got the gadgets down, for example. Still a bit of a kicker, but it's enough to give them that small tickle of an advantage where Pasha can slip the net and make a big play come round end.
You just feel like that could be the moment for Virtus.pro. They've lost a good few rounds in a row at 3 prior to that, and they were just sort of a little bit beaten up, but that just has given them that injection of energy, that a little bit of vigor to fight their way back into it. So great stuff from them as they now move into round 12. I said I wanted as much of this matchup as we could get, Des, and they are delivering right now.
Yeah, there's still potentially so much more to come as well. Far from done just yet. Something just tells me, Tim, that this ain't going to be a clear-cut win for Virtus.pro, and probably we're going to find ourselves going through to O-word.
We'll see if we get there, Des. We'll see if we get there. I have severely limited myself in the use of the O word so far through the tournament. I'm keeping it for the big moments, and we will see whether this is going to be one of them. But
is this a big moment coming up?
it could be in the grand scheme, I think. I mean, when we're actually going there. I mean, you know, I try not to talk about it through the first 12 rounds, essentially. Trying to wait for us to get there.
One thing I'll give to both teams, I actually think they've been very good at killing each other's drones as the game has gone on as well. And in this round, it's going to be even more pronounced because you've got the Mew and the Mozzie on side. I speak about that when you see it in combo. It used to be with the Vigil, but these days it's the Solus, obviously, right? Here, at least, not being employed all that much. Neither team really leaning into it because neither wants to get too jiggy on their own. But I'd argue, actually, it wouldn't have been a bad idea given the fact that backstabs from below seem to have been the answer to a lot of problems coming in for both of these teams. Either way, still 5 versus 5 here. Nothing too crazy in terms of throwing themselves out of windows, but a C4 attempt did come through. Problem is, Tim, there's still 3 more C4s to go. So really hope NIP have got them fancy feet on this round.
Virtus.pro should have a real good opportunity of closing this out. As we've said, 75% pretty much defender win rate for this site in mining. So Virtus.pro certainly have the location. The question is, do they have the ability to hold on to it? They lost it last time around. The top floor sweep is going to start coming across pretty soon from NIP.
Expose himself to moves. Hell, look, that's a classic observer curse moment, that is. You're watching the angle forever. The moment you flick away is when the kill comes through. Gets the down. Looks like, Tim, it is boiling at least in favour of NIP. Temporarily, not guaranteed, of course, to get all the way through. The one always back on his feet is being revived up, I imagine, now. No, okay, never mind. It's still ticking down. I thought for a second they had him. And this feels like a great time for NIP to start their march on forward. In fact, they're just abandoned always on the upstairs then. Here we go once again. Normal business has resumed, Tim. It's all about the vertical control. Will we see a big hero play out of one of these last 3?
We can't ignore the fact that Dan is still on the board. 18 and 6. He's been putting up the big numbers so far for Virtus.pro. They need him now more than ever. They need a big double to just level the man count. 30 seconds left to go. And NIP, they have really softened up sights here. They're in a position ready to try and put themselves down there to start thinking about getting that diffuser on the ground. But Dan, he's moved himself into pillars. He's just using that angle. He's using the footholds to try and see if he can pick up a cheap kill. Cons goes in. He's trying to think about getting the diffuser down, but the FNAT's making it difficult, and it feels like it might be falling apart for NIP, but there's a big kill from Cycle 1 to Dan. Wizard finds one of his own. The plant is going down, and there is Pino to take us to overtime, Des.
Expected. Given how the second half has played out that last round, it didn't feel like that success could carry into yet another. Virtus.pro probably a little bit doubtful here because they remain on the defensive side. In fact, it feels now for both teams like defense has been the go-to preference. NIP, of course, with it being their map pick, get to choose what side of the map we stay on, or what side they start on, sorry, in overtime. They've chosen attack as well. So through and through. Turns out Cafe Tim might be one of our more attack-leaning maps, especially after this game.
Certainly has looked that way. I think, you know, through a lot of the day, it's not been, you know, it's certainly not been in every round of every game, but I feel like we have seen teams today that have been sort of managing on the attack much better than we've had through the first week or so. Certainly for the games that I've seen, at least. And Caster, there's definitely been more of a lean towards finding some success on the attack. I think we've just got a little tech pause that's come in at the minute. So we will get everybody sorted and back in place where they need to be. and we will go from there. But for the time being, NIP have just been on such a roll through this second half. You got to wonder, what is the momentum going to be like when they come into overtime?
Absolutely. It's going to be one of those, I think, with them starting on the attack where things probably are not going to change all that much. Expect you'll see NIP continue to roll on through. Maybe Virtus.pro take round 14. It may take all 15. But it just feels bonkers that we've seen, again, what feels like a very historic game of Cafe. It feels like we've gone back about a year or two and we're seeing the meta from back then where it's all about the slow-paced nature of attack. It's about the control. We're not really seeing too much aggression coming out of the defenders. Anyone could be fooled by thinking that this isn't actually an attacker disadvantage meta, that actually they're the ones on top. As I think we've now seen 4-2 splits for both attacking halves.
Yes, we certainly have. For me, I think as well, obviously, in the best of threes, when you're talking about, we're in a position now where it's not a group stage anymore. It's not, game 2 where you've got another couple to look forward to. It's not all or nothing yet. Neither of these teams are going home on the result of this, but decisions are being made on the back of these games. So getting that first map is just such a huge thing, and especially for NIP to keep a hold of theirs before we go into bank. It's just such a best foot forward, such a big start for them in, what could be a really arduous matchup. We're going to overtime now. We're in round 13 in front of us in just the first map, and that could occur again and again between these two teams over the map. So having that early advantage can be, a huge distinction between who wins and loses.
I mean, Cullamy shocked him. We're going down to the ground floor, into kitchen, and Cons is on the Ossa. We've seen this a couple of times now. We've seen this big focus around White and around the freezer drops, for example. One time it didn't work out as Virtus.pro managed to snake their way through the vertical net. The other time, if you recall, they pinched really well into VIP and into restaurant area, picked up a couple of kills, and then just very comfortably walked in when Shepard was left in a 1 versus 3 to get away with the plant. So far, not so good for Virtus.pro. Sure, some are a little bit concerned about them picking this site to defend.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, again, I said it before, Dan is in that critical position in VIP. He's playing fantastically well so far. 18 kills to his name. I'm sure he'll be keen for a couple more. Honestly, on a different day, I'm kind of concerned if NIP think they can just go down and bully him with the Ossa again, because don't forget there was damage raining in onto Cons last time, and on a different day Dan probably picks up that kill, and then they're in a bit of a tricky situation. Diffuser's down and he's still lodged in VIP, and it becomes very difficult. So NIP, if they're going to go for that, they have to make sure that they get it right.
They absolutely do. All right then, let's march on and see how this round plays out. I noticed on about the kind of air quotes, not disrespect, but lack of it shown to the Yokais. Of course, so far, they've not really proven to be much of a bother. They have been dealt with. And I'm sure Psycho quite fancies the idea of capturing 1 or 2 of those for himself with the Brava. Seen that put to relatively good use. He remarked on the round earlier on where the FNAP was captured out and really helped the attackers to get the round closed out. That was way back when, mind you, when NIP were on the defense back in the first half of things, and things have changed a lot since then. Now, nice use of the information there from the Yokai to feed at least one little bit of cross. I imagine one of those ones took him back into sight, though, rather than chancing them getting picked off outside of sight.
Yeah, absolutely, but I like what they've done. They've recognised that Dan being pushed was the problem last time. So this time, there's a little bit of support there. And just by putting it at the back of Garage there, it's very possible NIP come down, guns trained towards VIP, and don't notice that Yokai. And all it will take is one stun. If Dan's ready to challenge and that stun comes in, it could break the back of the attack. So keep an eye out for that later in the round. NIP fans, I'm sure, will be hoping that they pick up on that Yokai, because it could be a difference maker for Dan keeping himself in this position in VIP.
I just like how they've got a little bit of difference coming in here, where they're willing to play a bit more off-site, if not with players, then at least with utility. Like, I think you've got Always ready to swing inside a restaurant. You've got Dan playing inside of VIP. So once again, there's this 2-man pairing on this side of the map looking to threaten onto White, make it a third with Pasha also playing around here. But I expect this means that probably what you're going to find is NIP just ignore this and try and go for a pretty standard freezer take, as long as they're not too worried about what can come in from VIP. You've still got that Warden sat there, and sure enough, Cons is in. Not quite panic stations yet for Virtus.pro, but they haven't got a lot of time to correct this.
Yeah, I like this. They've actually just bypassed Dan. They've just rushed in. Muzi manages to pick up the kill then as he tries to rotate. Always is in VIP as well, but he does get the kill onto Muzi. That could be big as it puts him on that backside, but the plant is going down. Cons comes off it again. The Yokai phone just stunning it out over and over. It's going to give Always an opportunity to potentially get in and have a say in this last minute of the round cycle.
They can't get it.
The kill. They've got to get this.
That was the Yokai use I expected to see in earlier rounds. Critically, Tim, it's a defense win on the downstairs, but he has terrorized Cons there with the use of those Yokais. NIP being quite slow to start things off, of course, execute with about 30 seconds left. It was just a juggle job then for the Yokais, and even when they had 3 players all sat around bunker at the close against the final Yokai, they still couldn't get things done. And I guess this is the risk when you don't have any players in sight with Cons. He is left at the mercy of any utility that can terrorize him. It could well be the Yokais. It could be things like the Evil Eyes. And it was only later in the round that they realized, we've really got to get someone in there with him, guys. And they just couldn't do enough about it. So a good round from Virtus.pro. They go into the attack inside, and Tim, they could steal this one away 8-6.
They really could. You know, a great finish from Shepard, essentially. 1v4, and Always made a smart move. He rotated into VIP. So they kill Dan and they think, right, VIP's clear. And NIP, I think, had failed to recognize that a second player had gone on in there, because then Always was able to come hit Muzi on the flank and really pressure that backside. And I feel like what that did was just create a bunch of chaos, where then you've got 3 players going, my God, where's the Yokai? Are we going to get pushed by Always? There was just too much going on, and it gave Shepard the opportunity to just stun out the end of that round. And NIP, they are going to be kicking themselves, because that one was there for the taking.
Completely agree. Going back to what we saw in those first 6 rounds, I imagine here then, once again, seeing Pino on the castle. So the almost entire first half of the first half of this map, and Always is always the one to get up on the south window, as he's done here, and blow his way through onto that to clear things out for his team. This time around, still no Warden to face off against. They should be able to burn through this, and he's just realised, yep, pretty safe to do so. But I like this movement straight away, as NIP looking to try and get up in his face here. Psycho in particular, the one stepping across. Going pretty good in this map, it's worth noting. He's had a pretty quiet competition so far. Had a pretty good map 3 earlier on against Fury, and here he's sat at 13-8. Looks like he's really warmed into the day.
You got to remember, you know, mentality-wise for NIP as well, there's a lot on the line in this game. They've already played once today. It could become somewhat exhausting. Don't forget, you know, we're here in Brazil. The winner of this match will go through to the live stages, so you know that you're going to have, you know, if you're NIP, you're going to have that day in the sun on your home soil, and there's a lot on the line here, and Virtus.pro trying to play spoiler. It's 7-6, Virtus.pro on the attack. And they are starting now to work across that top floor. Wizard taking a lot of damage as Virtus.pro have actually walked on into sight. But what a beauty! Hits the headshot onto Dan through the softwall. Shepard there for the trade though, and starts throwing the diffuser down. And NIP, I don't think they're in a position. No, they are. Pino finds the line through from pillars. There's one down. It's 3 versus 3, but the diffuser is cold.
That's funny, because that wall often gets reinforced off by defenders, so you can't shoot from the double window. But Pino has made great use of it back against them. This could turn out to be a real headache for Virtus.pro. Now we're going to try and get the diffuser and get it somewhere else. Right now it's sat in the middle of sight. It's got Pino watching it. Sure, the other 2 players are off elsewhere, but maybe it's on joystick. We've still got 60 seconds to go, Tim. It's a lot of time for VP to make this work.
It is. They really need to make sure they don't rush this. Always will pick up Cons from the window. That's going to close out. It could give information, if nothing else. They know that they need to go in here, but Pino, he's going to be watching. He knows that the smoke canister, there's likely somebody on the way in, so he just starts firing. He can't find his man, though. Pasha does take damage, but is going to be able to stick this almost certainly. And now, NIP, this is the moment. You have to hit the retake here, otherwise you will be going into bank 1-0 down.
Smoke grenades coming in clutch right for this plant. Managed to recover and turn it around, and Pino's now got to move out from his hidey hole in hell and make things happen. It's Muzi challenging upstairs, finds joystick, finds a second as well of NIP's, done enough to hold on. Always. It's got about 15 seconds to hold here, Tim.
Always is going to have to be real clutch here. He manages to find 1v1. He blows above the diffuser, and that is almost certainly going to win the round for Virtus.pro. Surely not. Pino,
It's
he's
the
trying
time,
to
he's messed it
long arm
up.
it, but no! Always is there. He has the angles that he needs, and he comes to the rescue for Virtus.pro. They get it done after NIP really run a close race on Cafe.
One of the slowest Cafe games I think that I've seen in what feels like a long time, but slow, composed, and control as much as NIP made a good use of those verticals. Virtus.pro, they figure it out in the end. They get the defensive round win in round 13 thanks to Shepard, who admittedly at 1-9, not having the biggest impact, but it doesn't matter what scores are on board. It's all about getting those round wins, and that's exactly what the Yokais got away with.
That's it. History only shows the final score, and that is the fact that NIP did not manage to turn that back over.
All right, over to a quick break before we come up for map 2. See you in a few.
Enter the building, and they are bringing some aggression to the lineup here, but they're also just working their angles, working their information properly. Ashen using those warding glasses right as the flashbang pops. Someone repelling in from the piano side of things as Houghton gets shut down from the red stairs. More flashbangs coming in. Ashen has so much time left on this glasses. Will be finding NJR, and with that gives away his position. 8 seconds left as he will find another one, but there's a double stack up on the planks, and Nave finding that kill when it matters most. And with that, Dark Zero finding themselves 3-2. A little bit of a teabag. This must be Canadian ordering them to go for the teabag.
Okay, so there was a great documentary done about Atlanta, about the team's rise and fall. Canadian was one of the people that was followed on it. It's on the R6 Esports YouTube channel, so check it out. I'd recommend it. Amazingly, their interviews with him, he's like in the gym, like pumping iron. And there is a question, I wonder if he asked for that. If they were like, can we do a documentary? He's like, yeah, but I want to look ripped. His drive on the vibes, on sort of improving on that level, he does it to, you know, shake the opponents, but it keeps his team's energy massively high. It keeps them sort of heads in the game, engaged. It's very rare to look at Dark Zero and not see them with smiles on their face, even in the longest days, and this is one of them. Because remember, they are here because they won the 2-0 earlier on. They won it very well against Liquid.
Yeah, it was a real blowout against them there, sending one of the Brazilian teams to the lower bracket. And for a while, it seemed like we might have had like 3 teams go out there, but you know,
how many hours ago was that?
That was 2.5 hours ago, something like that.
It's 3. It's been very long series. Between these series, there's always the argument of, is it better to sort of play, get warmed up, and then go into the heavier game, or sit and wait? Well, they sort of had the worst of both worlds. They played, then they had a long wait. I'm sure you could recuperate, but you guys know what it's like when you have a nap in the middle of a day. You're even more tired.
Depends on how long the nap is.
You know how long a day is for Canadian at his age?
Bamba opens up. That's the 4th entry kill now for Dark Zero in a row. So they've definitely been able to translate every single one of them so far into a round win. As we see right here.
Oh, this is new.
Watching the Solace walk by. And that's going to be giving you a lot of opportunity to just use your utility, just use your drones, because the Solace no longer going to be hunting them down.
Trying to find the next pick here, and you sort of want a bit of importance on this round from the side of SSG. Obviously, it's DZ's map. They're very good at it. They've been very good at it against opponents like SSG before. But if they start getting themselves into a bit of a burn, if they start getting their energy up before Border, where, as I said, SSG, they should have a really good showing on it. I love the plays that they do. No fish to catch on that C4. The plays that they do with quick sort of motions with that blitz. Huge take, though, from Ashton. Nafe gets one right back. They know exactly where Ashton's stuck. Can he win the fight? He just misses the first. Bolo gets the shakeout. And once again, with about 1:10 left, a 4 versus 2.
Ooh, just saw him go by there. J90 from the rappel. He's holding off on the top of White Stairs now. He's expecting someone to still be out on that rappel. Of course, not the case, as Pamba starting to open up on the top floor. You see Bolo do the exact same thing, using the boogies to basically open up the entirety of Piano, which is really making sure that the rotation point between the two sides can no longer be freely used without really being afraid of being shot from up above. We are, of course, playing in Mining and Dining. I think that might be the one and only rhyming site in the game.
There's your funnest fact.
Yeah, I mean, I can't
For those
call any other.
For those Roald Dahl fans out there.
Reload.
J90 with the Tubarao and a heck of a gun is just going to fire some warning shots to Forrest, can maybe make some motion silently, gets the back of one player. The second fight isn't his to win. DZ lose the first two, but come back in force for the next four. And NJR, I'm just going to repeat it because it's funny, calls him a stat player.
Yeah, just hits him right back to it.
In response to what happened at the start of the game.
Relatively quiet now between the two teams as we go to halftime.
Takes a break, takes a moment.
We can't trash talk every round, you know.
Probably just do like a normal freeze execute, right?
Right, thank you.
A normal
freeze execute.
He believes SSG are going to do a normal freeze execute.
You know what you do, Dan? You go to the top four, so there's no freezer.
Stop pointing at your head and saying big brain. Small brain, very small brain. I'm swapping you out for monkeyness. I'm curious to see how much this plays into the big brain of Canadian. Obviously, you know, it's sort of, we took statistics on this map. We say get rid of bar, never go bar, 100% failure rate this map alone. But Kitchen as well, it's felt less popular, obviously, than the two mid-floor sites. It seems like whatever the meta is finding its feet in terms of attackers and defenders this game, you know, I'm curious if it's something that might get phased out slowly as well, you know?
It's actually second favorite site right now in terms of defense.
Well then.
Mining dining first, 70%.
FB then.
Servers cooking, 63, and reading dining, 61.
Okay.
And then bar, 30. So
Yeah, well.
it's the odd one out.
Thanks, Statman.
No problem.
This is revenge for me calling you small brain.
Yeah.
30 seconds gone. Hey, look at this default freeze take. They are living up to expectations. Bolo in a bit of a swing position on the other side of Coat Check. He's waiting to see where the push and pressure comes towards Pamba. He's playing a very aggressive position. No shield, but obviously they've got the smokes to bait and waste as much time as possible. Starts at the top. And the collapse will come slowly over the floors, just ensuring that there's not a Dark Zero player, Hallow Nafe, in a position to try and strike. Now, if this has been droned, and they aren't going to re-drone it, this could be bad.
It's especially since it's a Solace as well, should be, you know, aware of these drones coming through, and Houghton already starting to open up with sending some Trek Stingers down to stop any roams from coming back up. However, there is already roamers up, and that's the issue here. Nafe, as you just mentioned, as long as he's patient, as long as he just waits, he has the opportunity to strike whenever he wants, wherever he wants. And that is going to be the huge problem here for the side.
Here we go.
They don't check it. That's a kill.
Oh, no. All right, well, there's the knife in the back, and there's suddenly this alarm bell ringing from SSG because they thought it was clear. Now it's not. All the rest of them, they're already on the mid-4, putting pressure. Do they rotate up? It seems like there is at least some of that towards the top of white. There it is, two players. He's going to see how long he can waste this. He's caught on the drone. He's about to be swung. A great pick back up, but look at what was wasted. A single player, sure, about 30 seconds in a confidence they know what's going on. Now, with a minute left, they still have to do the structure of their take itself. There's the Ram rolling on through. Roll in, roll in, roll in. Roll high.
The Bugie cinematic shots.
Yeah. And we find ourselves here. A little bit of, I'm not going to say panic, but keenness on knowing what... Yeah, they've got to get the job done quick, and I like that SSG are doing it quick.
It's like they turn up the YouTube video speed to 1.25 speed, and they're like, okay, we're gonna prepare everything a bit quicker. Interesting use indeed. I'm not quite sure. Oh, the Trek Stingers, of course, to get rid of those. So they actually have the opportunity to start swinging back up, especially once the execute starts hitting. You might want to get that top floor control.
The swing round, the smokes are in, Forrest is in as well. He's going to see if he can try and find a little spot, and does. Wow! That was like diving and sort of whipping and trying to find a single safe place. He's back and forth, but there it is! Oh! Step up for the execution. J90 is serving up pain in the kitchen. Pamba, he's got to make a bit of a move, but it's a post-plant situation. Suddenly, 2 versus 3 technically with NJR on the floor. He cannot be gifted it. There's the pick back up though. And there's the knock right back down. What a great bit of motion there from SSG.
The shouting step player now to NJ. Typing it out. something along the line of, "What are you doing?
What are you doing?
What are you doing?"
So for those who missed our mascot at the beginning, you'll see some great mascots in this game. That's why we had a mascot.
A lot of players have just printed out a picture, and I don't know.
I love the pictures. There's even a picture of, I believe, one of the player managers or referees is the picture on one of SSG's screens.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so we have our own. They have their player manager. I actually learned something fun about one of the mascots, which was Bleed's mascot. I talked to Mentalist about Joe, the mannequin.
Okay, yeah.
I said,
"Oh, it's Joe and Joel."
Joe and Joel. I said,
Okay.
how did you get... I said, how did you get a mannequin? They said, wouldn't it be funny if we had it? They went to Julio, and Julio went, I know where I can get one. Or like, along that line, he had the expression of, it's like, he will sort it, and they get a mannequin. So, but I love it. I love that we raised this conversation. I asked a couple of people, I asked Pengu, I asked whatever.
Yeah, what would you pick?
What would you have? What would you have? And we have been gifted,
Well, borrowed.
Well, no, he's come to help us, Monkiness.
Volunteered.
So we could feel like we fit in with this very mascot-driven showdown. Dark Zero, they have the mayor. Mayor McCheese.
Mayor McCheese.
Yeah, he's the mayor.
I might have missed that one.
You need to follow their Twitters more. Okay, great take from SSG when things started to go a little bit. As I said, they started to crank. They knew where they needed to be, and they knew how sort of hot and heavy they needed to get there. Naif was the surprise strike before, but even with that lucky Na'Vi charm, let's see what he can do. The fun fact is with that Na'Vi charm, 3 of the best players in this tournament before this game started, Doki, Naif, Citizen, all used to be on the same roster.
Yeah.
Imagine it now.
Maybe one day they'll all reunite under the same bat.
Get Kenny, get Nello.
Bring back the day. Foot's opening up from range. Not sure if there's anything there to stop it. Doesn't seem to be the case. The fire already went off on the bathroom side of things, and Houghton will shut down Panda. So it's gonna be the Solace God. Very aggressive entry there in terms of like positioning from the attacker out there. And as Dark Zero finding themselves with one less, it's also the Solace. Now, of course, you still have Canadian around on the pulse, has a good opportunity to read where the players are, especially vertically, but no opportunity to hunt down any of that utility now. There you have it. C4's already been prepped.
On the
Dust
hunt.
coming through, they're just waiting for the go sign as the hatches open up. Just seems like no one really wants to move there, though, so Canadian's just watching it, because no one's coming there.
A minute on, pretty much the latest we've had every single player still standing at this point. A keen protection of the rotation with those gridlock tracks thingers. Trying to find that angle, just clear that little pocket cover of the plant, but it's a very awkward place to get your feet in, get the confidence. NJR's flipping around the bubbles, looks and goes for the cover. They're gonna just break it off and smash it. They're happy to take some control, but
May have taken a while for one of these two teams to come out ahead of the other. A real back and forth affair on Cafe, but ultimately Virtus.pro close out NIP's map pick. Tim, we now step into Bank for map 2, which honestly I feel like it's probably going to be a 2-0 between these two teams with how close it is. It's so hard to call.
It is, and NIP are no strangers at all to having to trade map picks and go and take somebody else's. So we'll see whether they're able to achieve that on Bank or not. But NIP, for me, had a really impressive period of play through Cafe there. They were, you know, they had a first half that was tough on them, and Virtus.pro had the run of things, and they really had to get themselves back into it on an attacking side that, you know, they've not always been the quickest on, not always been the most effective on, but they got the job done, and it was very, very close for them, taking Virtus.pro all the way. But it's also going to hit them hard, I'm sure, to have lost that one.
I mean, a special shout-out has to go to Dan in this as well. Throughout the whole thing, we were celebrating him. He died a few more times towards the end of the game, but I think he was like 18-6 at one point. Really was the bright star for his team throughout the game. But I think as the rounds wore on, it really did become more of a team effort. And to be honest with you, even Shepard's 2-10 doesn't give away the game-winning round. Playing on the Yokai, and given this was a very defender-leaning Cafe, sorry, attacker-leaning Cafe, that single defensive round really, for me, was the big turning point in round 13.
Yeah, and it's, you know, I think for Virtus.pro now, if they're looking at moving forward, you know, which they will be, it's about not needing those moments. They need to now be getting in there. They had an opportunity, nice 4-2 start, They didn't really build on that, and I think, you know, yeah, it's now about knuckling down and saying, like I said a few times during the cast, I'd like to see them just a little bit more willing to take those gunfights on the roam. Don't give up the space so much. Don't give up the map control. You know, be willing to go and win them. You've got Dan who's going 18 kills.
Yeah.
You know, send him in. Let him get a couple of kills.
He did try going a little bit crazy with the jump out of White Window, I think it was, on the Aruna. He did get a 1-for-1 trade, and I was like, oh, wow, we've actually seen a little bit of aggression in this game. Things were being changed up. And that probably for me is the big ask coming into Bank, is can we see these two teams be willing to mix things up a little bit? It's been a little bit, dare I say, kind of stale and samey every single round, where the team's just kind of going, oh, it's okay. We win that gunfight and everything changes, rather than being willing to try. Pasha waiting at the bottom of Brown Stairs for a backstab to try. Dan going out of White Window. So a little more aggression, a little more creativity and willingness, I think, will be the defining factor here on Bank. VP starting things off with a ban, though, of the Monty, taking away our resident shield operator. A big go-to, at least in the previous map, for Psych on the attack in a few of those attacking rounds was bringing the Monty along, and Grim going to follow from NIP. Fun thing is that Monty is the first time we have seen Virtus.pro step away from banning Ying in this competition.
So keep your eyes on that at home. Will we see Ying brought along? And if we do, to how much effect will it be? Ying has, you know, been picked up an awful lot when available, but also been banned out a lot of the time. Kaid and Clash will go. So the double shield ban coming in there.
Clash is a really interesting ban. Spoke about it a little bit on that last map. We saw Cons play it once or twice in the first half.
You can use it for blue stairs
yeah.
to good effect.
But most
really
teams haven't really done that for a while,
No,
right?
we've not seen it in a little while.
It's interesting. I think, again, for me, it's one of my favourite things when a team's trying to play like a rush-based sort of approach. It's really good to bring along there. Admittedly here, this kind of means for the first start of things, VP are going to be a little bit handicapped in a sense, because they're going to have to face off against the Ying without that Clash on side. Still plenty of other things that you can employ, of course, and straight away you're looking towards things like what Dan's on, the Warden, the Azami for Pasha, things like that. We saw some beautiful use of Ying plus Thatcher in our game earlier on, where teams, or DZ in particular, were very, very good at disabling the Warden's gadget and then making use of the Candelas to make a push in. There is no EMP being picked up, at least in this attacking round coming out from NIP, though, so instead relying very heavily on that Ying just getting the job done directly.
And it's a risk. It is a risk because, you know, if you haven't dealt with the Warden, then you're basically just nullifying that gadget, or at least hoping that you can pick up a couple of kills of other players, you know, that are sort of maybe around and peripheral to the Warden. But we'll see whether that's the case as we get on into things. It's round one then, NIP versus Virtus.pro on Bank. It is, let's not forget, the winner that will go through to those live stages. One way or another, whether they win or lose the next map, we will see them in the arena. So it is a big, big moment potentially for both of these teams here at Six Invitational 2024.
Indeed. Right, let's get things underway. Top floor droning coming in first. Very similar to what you saw on Cafe. You will likely see full map clears coming on through. And that doesn't always mean sticking someone up on the top floor. Often it will, as you're seeing here from Pino, marching his way across. But more than anything else, it's making sure it is completely clear with drones and that you are safe to move through the ground floor. For now, at least, they've got to face off against Pasha, who's really committed himself towards this hold. Got himself inside of admin where the hatch is reinforced. And back himself away. They still have the one open inside of open area itself, actually. Joystick is hanging around that too, so both could drop through that and get safely back towards site. But at least for now, trying to force drones to be taken away from NIP, trying to slow them down, and away goes Pasha.
Yeah, Pino is being the one who looks to push into that mid-floor hold. They need to be careful. Pino, of course, on the Ying. We just have Psycho out on the windows. So again, NIP all trying to support this top floor and mid-floor clearance. They know that they need to get hatch control before they are able to think about going in and planting. And no surprise to see Dan just hold up in red corridor there on the Warden, ready for any potential execution coming through. Now, Pino has got himself downstairs, which is good. Was a little worried initially with his positioning in the middle of the map. You know, the Ying is such an important operator. You don't want to be losing that gadget.
Ooh, I mean, the Twitch just missed one of the canisters, which is up on the table. Just across from there. I think you can see it tucked away. In fact, they got rid of it now. No, it's still tucked in. That could actually be a real backstab piece here as well, potentially for the defenders. As we get in towards those last 60 seconds, keeping hold of that might be quite critical here. Psycho. Well, he's so desperately trying to find the last one, but simply can't see it. And I'm pretty sure that's both the drones gone down now. That could be a real issue when it comes to the execute, unless they get rid of it.
Certainly could be, and Virtus.pro are
think
pretty
it's
well set
burning now,
up
it's
here.
gone, it's gone.
You know, NIP have the hatch, but other than that, Virtus.pro are pretty well set up to just keep a hold of this. They haven't dealt with the warden whatsoever, and Dan is able to just wait it out with the glasses on. The Candelas do nothing. There's been no push on the back of them. They're going to have to go at some point, Des.
Well, looking towards when these last few Candelas come rolling in, because that's the end of it. Then there's one left in back pocket, and maybe they're trying to bait out the entirety of Warden's gadget, but Dan has still got 3/4 left here. They've got garage control. They've got everything they need to hold on. This is going to be a real scrappy drop, Tim.
Yeah, it's going to have to be. Wizard is in position, ready to use a bit of Capitão's utility.
Oh, God, why is he there?
Is on a run. Where is he? He's making it now down to server. He's just going to have to go in through the smoke, makes it to the bomb chassis. It's so easy for Virtus.pro to pick that up, and you've got to ask the question of that very late rotate from Cons. I think maybe they were hoping for the hatch drop rather than having to go around, but without dealing with Dan, they knew that they had no choice, and Cons just on a last-ditch effort to try and run into the middle of site. We see it here through smoke canisters. Just has to try and throw the diffuser down. There's a nitro out. There's a shotgun out. There's no way that NIP are going to win that round. And just on the shape and size and how that first attack looked, I'm concerned for the Brazilian side here on bank.
Maybe it's been a long day, Tim. Maybe I'm a little bit tired. Maybe I'm a little bit cranky. But this feels like there's two different teams kind of playing PvE, and then they clash for like 5 seconds at the very end of the round. Because not at all did we see Virtus.pro out roaming in the map. So there's no reason why NIP had to take things slow, you know. I think after 60 seconds we saw Joystick and
Yeah,
Pasha.
they started in open and then they dropped back to site after about a
inside
minute,
60
yeah.
seconds. It wasn't even like it was stiff resistance up there. So what have NIP done with 1 minute and 45 seconds? They've got Psycho in to get rid of all the Goya Vulcan canisters. Yes, one did last a little bit longer than maybe intended, but that was about it. They've got Hibana to open up some of the walls inside a server. They haven't bothered with things like any kind of bolt drop. They haven't bothered with garage or bothered with marble. Everything has been focused around the server execute, and yet we're still getting down to the last 10 seconds, and Cons is like, oh shit, I need to get away from playing an open area and get myself down through blue and get this plant down as quick as we can. For all way to just walk up to his face and go, really guys, is this how easy it is? And bam, and that's the end of the round. And I really hope coming into this we would see a little bit more proactivity from both teams. We'd see a little bit more bites, and again, it feels like two teams are playing PvE only to clash for 5 seconds at the very end of a round, and it doesn't feel particularly good to watch. Dan has started things out with Psycho, though, this round, so at least a little bit earlier on we're seeing a bit of a, I won't say aggression, but at least an attempt coming in. My main concern for NIP is that's Psycho gone. That's the Capitão. That's your smoke and your firebolt's gone, which is so critical towards this attack being successful.
Yeah, really big loss of utility there, and that's exactly what we've been asking for from Virtus.pro. Dan's done a fantastic job in the entry, both on the last map and coming into this. He's got round 1 and round 2's entry, and he's making life so difficult for NIP. They're constantly playing 4 versus 5 at the minute because Virtus.pro are picking up so many of them early, and like you say, taking the Capitão along with it is huge utility loss on the side of NIP. You know, they'll have been looking to potentially use those smoke bolts to block lines of sight, allow them in through the windows, get a diffuser down. They're now going to have to adapt. They're going to have to move in the mid-round and think about another potential push.
I'm liking the Yokais being off-site again. We saw this a little bit on Cafe. The one on bottom white especially was really valuable. This one from Shepard has got inside a lobby which covers that entire side of the map. They know if they're being pressured from there, but the thing is, Tim, I was going to say, I've watched Virtus.pro stand still now for the last 75 seconds, and no one on NIP has really moved anywhere outside of course, rappel across to get that kill onto Pasha, 4v4. When does the movement start, though, guys? We've got a lot of time to play with still, and normally we've seen teams be so much quicker, not just on this map, but across the whole tournament on all maps.
Uzi and Cons have got themselves positioned at the top of Square Skylight. We've also got Pino on the rappel as well. Shepard, he's just trying to spot him out, and he will indeed see the Orsa moving across into stock. And, of course, those talent shields are going to be a big part of any potential plant that might come through. 45 seconds, and NIP looking to push forward, but the angles are all held. Joystick always managed to find 2. Shepard, he gets in on the action from elevators as well that hasn't been dealt with, and that leaves us now in a 1 versus 3. Cons has got it all to do. Will step into the FNAT and have the vision affected before trying to push through Janitor, but there comes the challenge from the Azami. Somehow Cons manages to win it out. 1 versus 2, 15 seconds left to go, but Yokai drones to play against, and The information is all coming through, and as soon as that plant tries to go down,
Look.
Shepard is just going to stun him out for the remainder of the round. Dance through the drone hole. 2 seconds left to go. Cons knows there's no chance. That's going to be VP taking round 2.
I think if Cons hadn't like almost naded himself inside a stock, that would have been a very different play to that part of the round, because you had the challenge come up the top of Marble, and at the same time, Cons really should have been there for the two-man swing, but the nade delayed him. And obviously, once you said go to the team, everyone is going. They know what they've got to achieve. They know the focus. So just a small little bit of desync there. And I guess elsewhere on the execute, like Muzi and Pino very much going in solo, and everything just became a scrap of 1v1s constantly being taken by the players of NIP, if not 1v2s. I mean, even Virtus.pro looked largely unbothered by that round.
Yep, they were very comfortable inside of sight, as they have been. I mean, we've got to remember this is their map pick. I mean, generally, historically, I've always kind of expected the Brazilian teams to be pretty good on Bank, or at least, you know, have a good familiarity with it. It's always seems to have been a good map for them over the years, but NIP certainly showing us that they're a little bit off the pace here so far in the first couple of rounds. But let's not forget what happened on Cafe. NIP were able to fight their way back into things, but if they want to get that done, they're going to have to start sooner rather than later.
I'm just looking back as well at the bracket about which team, you know, these two teams, the winner of this game, will have to play against. And it's Space Station or Dark Zero. Personally, expecting Dark Zero to win that one quite comfortably against Space Station. And I just look back to what we were talking about on our cast earlier, how proficient and how quick and how heavy as a team Dark Zero are, how oppressive they are on the attack. I think from what we both seen from both teams in this game on their attacking halves, I'm a little bit nervous about the prospects of being able to bring down either of those other teams, to be honest with you. Like, I know NIP have beaten Fury and VP, got their kind of direct buy-in here, admittedly by a matter of round difference. W7M could have been the team getting the buy into this particular matchup. And I'm just a little bit nervous again about their prospects, because I don't feel like this has been a quarter-final game so far. It feels like a game that you see in the group stage, maybe. Just in terms of sheer, like, pace and the sharpness of both teams has lacked a little bit at points. Yes, Virtus.pro are the ones coming out on top, but got to see more from NIP. They don't win this round. I really want to see a timeout and see them reset and think about a new approach.
I like what Virtus.pro are doing here. They've got the open area hold, and sort of as we've asked, they've got players out on the roam a little bit. You got Joystick, you got Dan there off playing on the top floor. They're in stock and over in sort of meeting and banana area at the moment, and that's posing a problem for NIP, something they've got to solve. Cons is looking to move in to the top floor. He's just outside of the square double door at the minute. Dan is aware of that angle. He's watching it from Janitor. He's actually going to drop away now, and again 1 minute 15 has gone. Virtus.pro, they're happy to give up that top floor, and sometimes you just feel like stick around, take those gunfights, you're winning them at the minute, but equally they're winning rounds without having to, so I guess why take the risk always. He's going to be watching for that drop to come through. There won't be anybody from NIP wanting to give themselves away that easily just yet.
Looking at the double globals coming out, really, the Lion and the KB alongside each other. Not something you get to see that much at this competition, to be honest. Normally you're seeing the KB banned away, and often seeing the Lion instead getting paired up with Grim. Obviously not picked up by either of these teams so far on this map. Of course, on NIP have the opportunity to do so. And that Nook is the one that I'm looking at to really have an impact in the round. Often banned away, well, used to be banned away quite a bit on this map overall. NIP, once again, they're being given the run of the map, and with 60 seconds to go, they're in a pretty good spot to pull off a very good multi-side execute.
Certainly could be, but it's going to have to all come together at exactly the right time. Pino's got himself in position. He's actually inside of the metal detectors, but Dan has got the angle covered. He's got his teammates back and manages to find the kill from the bomb chassis. And so it's all likely to come down to that double door side. We see it mounting now. They're going to open up the wall. They've got Muzi inside of Electrical. Pasha, he finds Cons, and they're just getting picked up one by one here. Virtus.pro, it's like shooting fish in a barrel, but Muzi manages to shoot back. He finds Shepard, 15 seconds. NIP, you've got to go. Muzi taken down. Dan with a triple for the round. He went big on Cafe and continues to do so on Bank always. He mops up Wizard, and that's going to be another round to Virtus.pro, and this one is running away from NIP quickly.
Unsurprisingly, NIP calling attack timeout. Who'd have guessed? We did speak about this at the start of that last round and just say, really, we've got to find some new ideas. Because, again, I kind of come back to what I said before. It feels a little bit PvE. It feels a little bit toothless so far from NIP. I mean, truthfully, I don't mind. Like, what Pino tried to get away with, sorry, on the nut wasn't too bad. You're going for a backstab. Hopefully you're unheard and you get away with it. But as you remarked, you've walked through beepers. They know exactly where you are, and it's all too easy for Dan to get that long-range shot and pick him off for one. Then you get the second player step forward and go for a challenge. They get picked off too. It's just kind of one after the other, a team completely out of sync. And again, I understand why this timeout has come through, but NIP do not look like a team on the same page against Virtus.pro.
No, at the moment, I think you're absolutely right. I think it's probably the right time for Chubbs to be calling in that timeout and saying, look, I need to have some interjection as the coach here and try and just galvanise this team, because they're not creating situations whereby Virtus.pro, you need as attackers to create these lose-lose situations for the defenders. And, you know, I guess we keep saying, you know, like Virtus.pro, stick around on the roam, try and pick up a kill or two. But as I said in that round, they don't need to. So why bother? Because then it creates a situation where maybe NIP can single them out and can get them in a 2v1. And Virtus.pro are saying, you know what, we're not really going to lean into that. We're just not going to give you any opportunity to get a man advantage, to single us out, to, you know, isolate us. We're just going to play very cohesively. The site setups have been good. As you saw there, when Pino tried to push in, Dan had the long angle from Chassis. They just have each other covered, always was watching the drop. It's all very nice inside a site from Virtus.pro.
It is, yeah. And the Kiva barrier, for example, at the end of the kitchen counter, I was just like, you know, these are the kind of things that as the attackers you look at and think, right, that is going to impede us being able to push into site. Do we hit that, for example, by getting in through printer window? Do we find some kind of vertical that we can nade it from at a nice angle? Again, it just feels a little bit toothless. It lacks any real bite. I've said it once, but I'll say it again. It lacks any real sophistication or ability to solve basic problems that Virtus.pro have put before NIP. So let's see things now change coming into this again. We've got the second quarter to play out, which I imagine means we're going to see a same 3-site rotation starting on the downstairs. Candace is going once again into very much the same position. No Twitch on side this round, it's worth noting, because that was arguably one of the saving graces for NIP and for Psycho in particular last time they attacked this site, was they could get rid of all that utility ahead of time. But think back to what I said, Tim. They had about 2 minutes to make full use of the map. There was no one out there open for Virtus.pro. We had the 2 players inside of open area drop away within 60 seconds, and NIP didn't really achieve much in the next 90 seconds to the stage they were forced to just go for a plant and a bit of a Hail Mary. This time has got to be a bit more decisive. I like the lineup they've got. I think the Ying and the Capitao are perfect for this, but they've got to use this utility well.
That's it, the forced joystick back to site, as you said, within the first minute pretty much. So NIP, get yourselves inside the map, be confident, you've got the drones there, you know that he's gone, and you know that you can start pressuring. The hatches are open, so, you know, that's usually one of the jobs for the attackers, is go in there and get those hatches breached. They don't even need to do that in every case. There's only a couple that they need to open because they've been given one already. So, NIP, you got everything you need. 1 minute 30, you've got mid-floor. Now's time to go and take server.
I'm just saying, everything's opened up. They've got what they need. They've got half the round still to play. This is going to be the telling point for me. I think Pasha himself was even reading into this with his player still around, constantly checking in towards Garage to see what's going on. Last time round we remarked, no one came down Marble, no one came through Garage, no one dropped in through Lobby Vault. Nothing really happened to upset them in the backline. It was all too easy for Virtus.pro. So I think it's the right idea that he's got to say, okay, they've had attack timeout here. There should be an adjustment in strategy. Nothing as of yet. Still getting themselves set up. It's a little bit aggressive and deep on that one. That might be able to get shot off if they're not too careful for it. In fact, just instantly tripped away. Nothing else really to worry too much about.
Oh, that's it. Tom's just going to rotate back upstairs up for the time being. Joystick taking a lot of damage, but managing to win that vertical fight, shutting down Muzi. And that's a big one because they were trying for the backstab through the elevator. Psycho has gone in, but the Candelas did not do their job. They did not go deep enough, and he gets taken down. And once again, Virtus.pro just super confident inside a site and able to cut them down. There's one by one by one.
Exactly how I'd describe it, Tim. Just really good angles again being held, and yeah, I'll praise NIP for this. They did have good ideas in that round, I thought. They had the attempt to come in around elevators. They had someone sat on the lobby hatch. They were trying additional angles to try and challenge VP with, but as you saw from Pasha with about 60 seconds to go, he was checking Garage. They were aware that these things were going to come in and potentially start upsetting them. But I'll come back to what I said in the last round. I know they discovered the Kiva barrier a little bit later into the round, but they're not getting the bare basics of getting rid of, like, layer 1. Sure, you clear out the simple thing like a castle barricade, and then there's Kiva barriers through the entirety of the site that they have no way of getting with. You know, things I'm looking at like Flores is the kind of thing that Virtus.pro love running. You could run that. We're looking in towards things like Zofia on the previous map. Haven't seen that coming out. This round might be an interesting one because you've now got Pino going across to playing on the Kali that we spoke a little bit about last on the previous map. 4 of those charges can help you get rid of some of the utility that's scattered around the map. So, again, NIP are trying enough ideas here, but gotta see more. They've got to get at least 1 round on the board, Tim, or this could be a really quick map.
Oh, 100%. And I think the problem for NIP is it's kind of like I said, no matter what they try, Virtus.pro just aren't interested. They're not taking the bait. They're not biting. They're just like, you know what? We're confident. This is a map choice. We're confident in our site setups, so we're going to let you chase us around for a minute, and then we're going to get back to site, and we've got every angle locked down. And it's typical Virtus.pro. We've seen it from the roster over the years. You know, we're confident in what we've got, and we're just going to do it better than you can possibly find an answer to. And right now, they are. You can't argue with it.
I mean, I'm seeing, you know what, Tim, I like this one. I'm always seeing an Amaru come out, and there's always a spicy idea or two in the back pocket of a team that involves an Amaru in some way, shape, or form. So I'm really keeping an eye on Cons here and seeing what he's going to try and do. We know that Shepard had a really good power position around Elevator last time around. We had that kind of messed up swing where Cons was the one coming in through stock and self-naded himself, so it broke the timing a little bit. Here, at least, he's been forced away because we've seen that wall opened up, which is nice. Now what can they do with it? You've gained that area of the map for your control. It's not really easily playable. Instead, Shepard is having to hold top marble. And this is where, historically, a frag grenade would follow up marble stairs. They get themselves a freebie. It's probably not going to happen here because nades, of course, can't do that anymore. But it does mean that if they know the player is sat there, Cons can come and shoot him straight in the back.
The thing is, they can still use that same sort of technique, potentially. If the nade goes in, Shepard will at least have to move, and it might well just push him into that line of sight. But no, Pasha, Dan, they find a double. The nade comes in too late. Shepard doesn't need to move. Psycho finds Dan in a very late trade, but it's 4v2, and it's Virtus.pro running away with another round, and they're just showing us a mastery of defense here on the top floor of Bank.
Again, try again, but Virtus.pro have just got every answer, it feels. They're aware of every potential backstab coming in from NIP. It's almost like there's not enough fight, like I keep on saying. It's toothless. They're trying their very best, but Virtus.pro have always got a response.
Just got the answers.
They do. It's a 4. I mean, and to be honest with you, the answer is just win your ones, mate. Like, they're turning around and shooting them in the head as NIP are trying to run at them. I mean, look at the kills down the left-hand side of your screen. Across all the rounds we've played so far, we've seen 7 kills come out from NIP across 5 of them. If that doesn't say that we cannot win our gunfights today, even when we've got 2 minutes to attack a site, I don't know what else does.
And it's just so strange, you know, following on from the performance that we saw on the last map. NIP had a real great session in the middle of that one where they were finding kills, they were competitive within the rounds, but this time, it's just a big ask. Wizard turns a 1v3 into a 1v2. 30 seconds left to go. He's taken at least 1 Yokai out. So there is an opportunity here. He knows there's one off in stock. The shots will tell him, but smart from Virtus.pro again. Pasha just dropping down the hatch, forcing Wizard out towards Janitor, and always picks up the kill. And again, it's that situation from Virtus.pro. They've always got the next angle covered, no matter where it is.
It's one of those classic things where it'd be so easy to look at this game and go, well, Virtus.pro aren't really having to do much anyway, therefore neither team is playing overly well. But we've said it a few times, they're winning their ones, and I love the trade that came through, by the way. When they did lose a player, immediately Pasha was there onto Muzi there. About half a second later, there was an immediate trade coming out of Pasha. So VP have got each other covered. Yeah. They're doing what they need to do to deal with, again, very toothless attacks coming out of NIP. Last round now to step down into open area and staff. I imagine we're going to see exactly the same setup. They didn't even manage to get the quad wall opened up to them, and that's what I'm worried about. Even when they get through the castle barricade, it's almost like they've seen the Kiva barrier for the first time in their lives. I want to see them change up a little bit here. The Flores from Muzi, perfect. That's exactly what this team needs. You've still got to contend with things like the mute coming out here, but that's where a Thatcher would help out. Oh, look, we're also seeing one of those come along. This feels like the first time that I've seen a comp that is actually designed to deal with all the setup coming out of Virtus.pro. Does it mean they'll win the round? No, but it's arguably the best chance they'll get to do so.
Yeah, that's it. NIP they've not really been short of ideas. I mean, they've dropped the Thatcher away, which isn't ideal for them, but we'll see, you know, how that impacts them progressing through. It's not like they've been short of ideas. They've not just kept, you know, running into exactly the same situation as we saw on Basement. You know, they tried to drop a different hatch. They tried to send the Candelas in, get in behind them. They've tried to do different things, but ultimately, because Virtus.pro are just kind of playing so turtle, it makes it very difficult for them things to have much of an impact.
Can't stress enough how important I think Muzi is going to be in this round. You know, you've always had the Habana on side, so you can chew through castle barricades very, very comfortably. It feels like, again, for the first time, they've got the ability to chew through a bunch of these Kiba barriers. They won't be able to completely keep them away because, of course, they recharge. You look towards the bottom right corner of your screen. You can see Always deploying more as the round goes by, and they'll slowly recharge their way through, so they can replace 1 or 2. But given the amount of utility they've got, they should be able to get through a few and at least open up a small part of the site here, so it isn't a free walkthrough or a free hold, sorry, for Virtus.pro.
Definitely, and they've got 2 minutes to do it. An absolute age on the clock. They've managed to force Virtus.pro back even quicker than they normally would. That's a really important spot that's just been opened up by Pino there, because we quite often see Shepard is actually in that position, needs to be careful. Quite often see somebody inside of that double door just trying to hold on to that position, and the vertical up above it is going to make it a little bit more difficult for that to happen. But Psycho manages to open up from tellers. He's got a long angle now right through the middle of site. That's going to cause Virtus.pro some issues if they want to rotate, but historically Virtus.pro have shown us that they will get themselves into position and they will just hold their angles.
So far they've thrown at least a couple of those Flores drones into a mute jammer as well, which is not ideal. Managed to get themselves at least through the castle barricade, but now the rest of it I start looking at immediately turn towards the keeper barriers. As mentioned, those things need to go, and in a way, you can see why they've banned it time and time again. They ban away the Azami almost every single game. This is the first time they haven't at this competition. And I think I can see why. They really struggle to deal with them.
It's just such a good example of what I was talking about with the teamwork as well. So Pino's opened up a vertical angle to stop them playing behind this quad wall, but they need the Hibana to open up the hole to give themselves that full angle. Pasha just keeps shooting the pellets
Come
off.
on!
It's just great team play between Virtus.pro.
This is ridiculous! Oh my god! It hasn't been seen on drones, it's zapped off an exothermic, and it's still sat there taunting them, looking for the Selmas as well. They've got rid of it, but it's too little too late. The site is still closed. Finally, Muzi gets himself in through Printer. We were calling for that in the previous round. Opens it up into a couple for the first time. NIP, I was going to say, are in control, but not so much anymore as Joystick gets one back. A 2v2 with about 10 seconds to play. Still dancing around these angles. A C4 over the top. Wizard narrowly staying alive as Con's looking to finish this off. C4 over the top, and they've done enough there with the alley-oop to give themselves a perfect 6-0 half, Tim.
That's a great throw from Joystick on the Nitro at the end there. It just about cleared the counter and managed to find its way to Cons in the nick of time. And yeah, like I say, Virtus.pro, they've just got so many different things covered. Pino opens the vertical. They need the Hibana pellets to open the wall to stop them playing behind quad wall. But every time they try to do it, Pasha leans round the corner, shoots them off, and they've just got so much stuff covered. And Virtus.pro show just the dividends that they can take from that. 6-0, absolutely running away from this one. NRP, don't play bank again, I would say, at the Invitational.
Just crazy. I mean, to be fair to Virtus.pro, I'll give them full credit. The Azami ban that I mentioned coming out, or hasn't come out in this map, I was like, man, I really feel like they're going to struggle coming up against that. But then they've used it themselves so well, and
100%.
NIP have just crumbled in the face of it. Bonkers, and I know I'm saying a lot about the Azami. This has probably been the most oppressive case I think I've seen of the Azami used for quite some time now. Really punishing a slow team, a team that didn't come equipped with the right lineup to deal with it. They came close. Muzi got a couple of kills. They opened a few things up with those Flores drones. Nice stuff. But then miss out the really critical thing like a Maestro Evil Eye being sat inside of square. Not ideal.
Nope, Virtus.pro, they can only play the team in front of them, and right now they are playing them very, very well. And they've kept the focus, they've kept the concentration, and they've got themselves a 6-0 half for it. That means NIP have no choice but to go flawless in return. They're going to have to run this one all the way back to back to back to get themselves 6 rounds on the bounce. See how Virtus.pro deal with this roam. We'll see whether NIP commit a little bit more to it, or whether they take out a leaf of Virtus.pro's book and say, you know what, we don't need to play out there on the roam, we're just going to let you come to site.
The kind of like hopium here is, as I always say, 2 halves to a game of Siege. You could see Virtus.pro come into this now and really struggle on the attacking side of things. Think about what we've seen on this site alone in itself. Now, even with 2 minutes to go, NIP still couldn't crack things open. They couldn't get into a spot where they had enough time to pull off and execute a well-covered one at that, which led to Always just walking up and just pumping Cons with the shotgun and then laughing really at how easy that round was to close out. Could turn into being a similar story here. Lots of stall on side. You've got a C4 to play behind the Vulcan canister. We've got the Yokai, the smokes. Very kind of classic lineup when it comes into a bank defense of the downstairs. So I'm really looking at Virtus.pro here and thinking, okay, you've shown what you can do with the Azami that you always ban away. What about the Ying that you always ban away but have chosen not to on this map? Because immediately, Shepard is onto it, and he could be the big defining factor to go into this. What I really want to watch out for too, though, is Dan on the Thatcher. Does he EMP out cons before we make use of those Candelas? We saw beautiful use from DZ on that sort of side of things earlier on. If they can pull that off, this is over 7-0.
Pino was playing at the bottom of blue stairs. Is going to stick around for the time being on the smoke. They will want those canisters for potential denial, but with the Yokai on side, it might actually give Pino that flexibility to stick around. But no, I think he's just scampered back to site now, and that's going to allow a little bit of freedom for Wizard to move away to maybe a slightly safer location. So Virtus.pro, 1 minute left to go, and they are now into site, taking out that utility and getting themselves prepped and ready for a potential plant.
Do they know about the Yokais? Virtus.pro make a lot of use of Echo, so they should have an idea that this is going to be a thing. Seems like they're at least aware of them, but obviously at this time can't quite find them out. Here comes one of the first Candelas, straight inside. Keep an eye out for cons, as really he'll be a big factor as part of this game. They're in trying to make a plan happen, but surprise! Smokes are coming out from the other side. Pino still with 2 left in back pocket. Commits a second, soon to be a third, I imagine, as well. It's enough to waste a bit of time, and what a great drone being used by Psycho to watch everything that's going on.
Yeah, that's really well timed from the smoke canister as well, because the Thatcher EMPs went in and there's none of them left now, so they're potentially going to have to deal with any utility that is left always. He starts again on the plant. Beautiful from Dan on the hatch. This could be 7-0. Always, he manages to get it down. They have the vertical, and I see very little chance of NIP running this one back in. It's 2 versus 3 though, as Muzi and Cons manage to pick up one apiece. Cons, he's going to have to go upstairs. He's going to have to win these fights. They need that vertical back.
And they just have no idea who's holding where is the problem. Everything just looks very, very tentative, not quite committing fully to the push out as well. Immediately challenged, forced to come back, and he's got 2 players ready to jump on him at a moment's notice. Going to try and long arm it, but 2 quick kills come on through. Not even close. Virtus.pro 7-0 over NIP here on Bank.
You have to say that it seems like Virtus.pro won that one in the map pick phase. There was just no competition between them and NIP on Bank. NIP just really, you know, as you said a few times, Toothless just didn't show up. But all credit to Virtus.pro there. They played their game. They had their setups. They were confident in them. And the cover and team play and the way that they interlinked those gadgets and helped each other to stay in those power positions was fantastic to see. Great performance from Virtus.pro. I'm sure that there will be bigger tests to come potentially, but they can be happy with what they've done.
They've played the game that was put before them, which is all you can really ask from a team, right? But outside, I mean, Cafe was really close. We know that. It could have been an NIP win on the map. We could now be going through to map 3 after a very crazy map 2 is the only way I can describe it. But for NIP, like I said it to you during the break, like, I can't really believe that this feels like a quarterfinal fixture. When you look at the quality that we've seen from other games so far today, this game, at least for NIP, really feels like it came in below the bar. I can see why it was such a battle for them against Fury earlier on. Now I worry now that if they drop into this lower bracket, I haven't checked out who they're playing against, but I wouldn't be shocked to see them going home in the next game. This does not look like the NIP that we know can make deep runs at competitions.
Well, it's like I said at the beginning, I always feel with NIP like there's a point in a tournament that they will activate, but they just have to survive up until that point. And like you say, it's going to be a tough ask for them dropping down into the lower bracket. One thing that NIP have always been very good at is, quick turnaround, short time frames for preparation, and that's what they're facing now. They've got another game tomorrow that's going to be very, very important for them, and so I think, they're going to be putting the work in. They're very good at turning it around quickly usually, so, hopefully in the next performance we'll see more from them. Virtus.pro, like I say, I'm sure there'll be bigger tests to come, but it will be a good confidence builder for them, and they move on through. We'll be seeing them at the live event.
Yeah, playing also against the winner of DZ SSG has said, which I think is going to be a really exciting game. The quality we saw out of DZ earlier. If SSG beat DZ, that's still going to be a mammoth opponent before you. But again, I'm really keen to see how they do having to play a little bit faster, because that is classic VP. That is slow, it's controlled, it's composed, it's got them a great result. But against a team that wants to go that little bit faster, can they keep up? Can they keep relying on Dan? Not too sure they can.
And we can see there, look at Dan's EPS, 178, only took 2 deaths, 4 and 1. You remember I said about Dan on the entry, I said it at the beginning of the map, and he ends up 4-1, 86, just fantastic stats. And his stats for, you know, we will have them in a second. You know, the stats for the entire series
29 kills, I think he'll be on.
Absolutely crazy across 2 maps. He's really, you know, outdone himself there. Fantastic play from Dan.
I think he's had a brilliant series overall. And again, to be fair, like you look at players like Shepard and we'll sit there and go, oh, he's 2-10 on Cafe. Again, his contribution goes beyond just what you see on the scoreboard at the best of times. This one, I think, was just from the previous maps. We haven't seen full involvement or inclusion here of the bank stats. We'll see if we can get that updated for you and show you guys exactly how it looks. But it would otherwise be, as I say, 29 kills for Dan. Mega series coming out from him. End of the day from NIP, we've got to see a little bit more coming out of them in their next game. Otherwise, it's lights out. Good night.
This is it, you know, you look at, like, you know, you picked up on Shepard maybe a couple of, but it's difficult when you've got Dan putting in nearly 30 kills in 2 maps and you're playing inside a site. Where do you find your kills? You know, there ain't a lot going round when Dan's playing like that.
It is hard, and I'll give it to him. He probably was a big defining factor in many of those Cafe rounds. Otherwise, like I say, I think we go through to a 3rd map there, and heaven knows how that could have gone between the two. I did not expect to go into bank and see a 7-0, for example.
I don't think anybody did. You know, at this point of the tournament, those things get pretty rare, to be fair. But NIP, I'm sure they're going to be kicking themselves. Look, we all have a bad day at the office. NIP have certainly had one in map 2 there. But as I said at the time as well, Virtus.pro, all credit to them because they've gone out, they've got a fantastic job done. They've recognised where the difficulties would be for NIP, and they've really leaned into that and took advantage of it. Great stuff.
They have. And again, looking forward to see how the rest of the bracket develops now. I think you've got Sonics versus FaZe on the other. You'll have VP versus against DZ or SSG on the other.
Tasty.
It feels it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The scary thing is, as we've already said, like, that leaves just one of the Latin teams coming into that top level bracket. God knows what's going to happen down bottom, because now you've got teams like W7M there, G2 are down there. Like, it is going to get explosive, and I don't know who's going to walk away from the kind of Victor down there.
I think all you can do is just start swinging. It's that sort of environment. You're just going to have to go into it swinging and try and take out anybody you can.
Here you go. Here are the full stats for you then to have a look at. 29 and 11 for Dan. As said, mega performance coming out from him. Look on the other side, that's more than some of the players have got over there combined. It was bonkers. Yeah, Muzi, I think, had a really decent second map, but outside of that, the questions asked there about who's really going to step up for NIP when it counts.
You know, anybody wondering about our EPS stat, that's like the player rating, and what we're looking at is 100 being a baseline of, you know, like what is acceptable as the average, you know, across the tournament. You know, what is the average performance, how many kills, how many assists, it all feeds into that. So when you look at the side of NIP across the series, they've only had one player in Muzi and Wizard to a degree that have met that average level, that sort of expected level. When you've got Dan on the other side going, you know, 50% above, it shows where the difference has come in.
It does. Again, still lots to see from them to move forward. Just a reminder so you can see how this bracket stacks up. As we mentioned, we've got Sonics versus FaZe on the top end of the bracket, and just underneath that, it'll be Virtus.pro against the winner of Dark Zero versus SSG. That game is still ongoing. And I mentioned this after our game earlier, Tim. A lot of eyes now will be turning towards round 1 in the lower bracket. Those games play out tomorrow. It feels like a David Goliath in that very first one of W7M coming up against Fear X, for example. But the rest of them, without the exception maybe of looking at Liquid coming up against Falcons, those other 2 games could be really tight, I think. And even then, it's not a guarantee that Falcons won't have improved over the week and that Liquid actually have a real show on their hands tomorrow.
Honestly, we've got some really good games coming up tomorrow. You look at that and it's so difficult to predict what's going to happen. And we start bringing in that bit of jeopardy. I know it's evil of me, but I love it. You know, you've got teams going home, you've got decisions being made, you've got that jeopardy. It really starts putting it all on the line.
Still absolutely tons to look forward to then, as said. And there's still a game, of course, to catch over on the A stream. We'll wrap things up here with the Intel play of the game, and we'll catch up with you guys tomorrow.